through them. Everybody has said that. Okay, this is a call to order. The City of Dunnellon City Council Workshop, February 9th, 2022. It is now 5:50 p.m. We started a little late because of an overrun of the special workshop that was immediately before us. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joe, continue to remain standing. Is there anyone that's with us today that would like to say a prayer or to give some words of guidance? Anyone? All right, well, let's just take 10 or 15 seconds of silence and hope that council and all of us working together in this meeting tonight that show wisdom, patience, and do the right things by the city and ourselves. Thank you very much. I'll have a seat. Ms. Odom, roll call, please.
Mayor White,
Present.
Vice Mayor Hanchard,
Here.
Councilwoman Williams,
Here.
Councilwoman Kenny,
Here.
Councilwoman Cubbage, Dan Smith, Finance Officer,
Here.
Chief McQuaid,
Here.
Lieutenant Yachts,
Here.
Troy Slattery, Public Works Manager,
Here.
Georgina Smith, Community Development Manager,
Here.
Julie Dowski, Records Clerk, Andrew Hand, City Attorney.
I'm here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the city's website and City Hall Bulletin Board on Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022.
Thank you very much, Ms. Odom. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. I have a very interesting workshop. We have some very weighty issues that we will be discussing. So as we always do, as a courtesy to the public, we always start off our workshops with an opportunity for the public to make comment right off the bat. It's earmarked particularly for those that want to make their comments and have to leave for whatever reason. So at this time, Ms. Odom, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
David Koger.
Mr. Koger, welcome. Name and address, please.
My name is David Koger. I live at 11983 Palmetto Way here in Dunnellon. First, I'd like to thank Troy for following through and doing what he said he would do at the last meeting. Thank you, Troy. And the reason I'm here today is my wife and I, you guys all know we live by the, across from the park over there, and we walk on the trail just about every day. And it's becoming more and more hazardous on a daily basis for two reasons. One is there's a group of people that have shown up with motorized skateboards that are pushing the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And when they do that, they're sometimes they're racing with each other, and you've got to be on your toes. Matter of fact, we had to jump off the bike path the other day because there was kids on one side, we're on the other, and these guys are coming through racing each other, so somebody had to give, and it was us. It's not only a problem with motorized skateboards, it's also a problem with motorized bicycles. Now, I know it's kind of a subject coming up later on tonight, but Troy, thank you so much for the signs. I think it might be appropriate to get some more signs at several locations that indicate that that is for a walking and bicycling path, not for motorized equipment. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Anyone else signed up? Ms. Odom?
Susan Jones.
Ms. Jones, welcome. Hello. Name and address. Pull that microphone down.
Yeah, there is a short girl appreciation day on the calendar. Susan Jones, 9129 Southwest 190th Avenue Road, Dunnellon, Florida. I'm just outside the city limits, but The group I represent, Rainbow Springs Art, is in the city limits on the corner of Pennsylvania and Cedar, which I believe you all know. And as I have mentioned in reports prior to this, Rainbow Springs Art is having a 2-day art festival in March. And we are very excited because we have over 30 artists whose work has been reviewed and approved to be shown in the festival. This is not a pay your fee and show your work. It's not a craft festival. This is an art festival, and we're really excited and proud of the entries that will be present this year. There's some new artists. We began this organization with the purpose of giving local artists an opportunity to show work that hadn't been seen before. So a lot of what is in our gallery and will be in the festival will be new work. So we encourage you all, the public, the staff, the members of the council, to please come and enjoy the event. There will be some food vendors. The gallery itself will be open, and I know a lot of the artists who are staffing the cash register and not outside will have new work inside. So both inside and outside venues will be very appealing and interesting, lots of activity. The raffle is designed to support our scholarship program for art students. We have given out several awards in the past, and we're hopeful that this raffle will again generate a great deal of income so we can do additional scholarships. There is a written report in front of you. I will not read all of that, but I wanted to invite Mayor White or his designee to open the festival for us on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. If you are available, that would be wonderful.
What's the date of that again?
It is the 19th of March, a Saturday. So our plan is Saturday and Sunday, corner of Cedar in Pennsylvania and surrounding areas. We're working with Troy on permits and street closures. We know that there's some challenges there, but I'm told to be cautiously optimistic. And that is what we will do. We've been talking about this since the festival last year, and we know that the area businesses get residual benefit from our promotion and marketing to people outside the area to come in. So we're did a small show last year in the COVID environment. We're expecting a much bigger turnout this year. Although we encourage people to wear masks and do what they feel is safe, we hope that it will be a record-breaking crowd. Any questions? Well, the number of artists was smaller than what we had hoped for. Obviously, the more artists, the more activity, the more of their friends and family come. And big is better when you're doing a public festival.
Oh, okay, so they had their own artists, okay.
Yes.
It was nice.
Yes. Oh, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. And, you know, the weather permitting, it could be even bigger and better this year.
If I could ask Troy, was there an issue with the DOT getting a permit for that?
No, what it is, it's a time restraint. We have to have our request in a certain number of days before an event. And the length of the event also changes the requirements of the type of barricades or signage that we have to put out. But I'm actively working on that permit, and I should have an answer by mid next week as to whether or not we'll have any challenges remaining. If not, within 2 weeks, I'll have authorization for the shutdowns.
Thank you, sir.
And Ms. Jones, my comment is the art festival is a win-win for everyone. Brings great and positive attention to the city. It's very well attended. Any city that's into a renaissance, which we are trying to do, always has a renaissance surrounded by art and things like that. And so we're so glad that, and what you said is really true. When you talk to the local businesses, once your festival is over, they all say that it's some of the best days of the year as far as their business. So there's not a negative whatsoever in what you do. It's a real attribute to the city, and we appreciate what you do.
Well, and we appreciate the residents who happen, there are a few who actually live in the area and have, challenges getting access to the properties. We know that that's, an inconvenience, but it's a very temporary inconvenience for the benefit that it brings to the city and the residents and the businesses.
Just pray for good weather.
That's a biggie. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we go to public comments. Yeah.
Kathy Dunn.
Yes, Ms. Dunn.
Kathy Dunn, 11386 Hendricks Drive. I sit on the planning board, and we were presented with the project for new signage. It was presented to us a couple months ago. I think it's a great idea to advertise our amenities such as City Beach, Ernie Mills Park, pickleball, basketball courts, our lovely new parking areas, as well as our old parking areas. However, when presented, I had no idea the cost of these signage, and it's projected that it would be $250,000 for these signs. In other words, $250,000. And I feel it's just not a priority right now at this time. So to me, this project should be tabled to consider what our priorities are. And in my opinion, some of our priorities include the following, moving forward: maintaining the properties that we own. It's obvious by Mr. Shepherd that we have not maintained the properties that we own. Why? It's sad. I think our department heads have not gone to city council and said, we need to do these repairs on our properties that we own. I mean, take care of what we have. Number two is completing the process to re-engage the Main Street program that we used to have. This program can help us make recommendations for signs, increase our tax base by bringing new small business to our town. Number three is getting resources to assist our planning council in revamping our comprehensive plan. We've been talking about it for a year, but we haven't done it because I think we need some guidance to do that. We need to know how our land in the city will be used, which are residential, which are projected for businesses. We need to develop a mission statement within that comprehensive plan. We also need to revamp our city website as part of that plan. We need to start thinking of the city as a business. And we need to know where we're going. The website, the comprehensive plan, the mission statement are marketing tools to attract small business to our town. Number four, city codes. We have over 200-page book of city codes. We don't follow them. Even our own municipality doesn't follow these codes. Why not? We need to redo these codes and throw out the ones that are archaic. We also need to figure out how we are going to enforce these codes. We need to spend the money to do this because it hasn't been done for the past 40 years. These should be our priorities before any money is spent on signage. Let's figure out which way our city is going before we spend the money on wayfinding signs. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Odom, anyone else sign up? All right, is there anyone within the room that would like to speak? Okay, please make note that everybody who has wanted to speak has been afforded that opportunity. We go to item number 2, the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association report. Judy, good to see you.
I'm Judy Terwilliger. I'm the Executive Director of the Dunnellon Chamber. We have a few updates. We have 2 new members so far this month, Barbers and Beers and the Oak Room Bar and Grill. And we have some upcoming events, actually a lot of them. February 12th is a ribbon cutting for Barbers and Beers Barbershop. February 16th at 5:30 is our next business after hours, and that's going to be at the Boys and Girls Club. March 5th is the next the next Saturday market in the park at Ernie Mills. March 22nd is the dinner mixer at Rainbow Springs Village Church at 5:30. April 2nd is our last Saturday Market in the Park at Ernie Mills. And April 9th is Boomtown from 9 to 5.
When's the dinner?
The dinner is the dinner mixer,
No, the.
awards dinner.
Thank you.
That's the 24th. I'm sorry, I didn't, left it off my thing. It's the 24th at 6 PM at the Oak Run Golf and Country Club. Okay. Our next board meeting, well, this one was, for February, was yesterday at 6 PM. The next one, it will be March 8th at 6 PM. And of course, the annual awards dinner is on February 24th at the Palm Grove Clubhouse in Oak Run. And I also have Danielle Stevens with Stevens Lab with an update on the website, if you guys would like to hear from her.
Very good. Before you leave, is there any comments or questions for Judy?
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Judy, in order to help the chamber with their dates, would there be an issue, those dates that you just rattled off, which I was trying to write them down?
Oh,
I
I'm
know,
sorry.
to have them printed out and possibly place them in the lobby when we have a meeting so people that,
I can do that. I can email it over to
so
you guys.
people can
Yep.
take them home with them. I'm sure a
Yeah,
lot of people right now are
absolutely.
saying, what date was that? And no.
I know, I read fast. I
So
apologize. but yeah.
would there be a problem with?
No, we can print them out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, just
Not
a
a problem.
suggestion.
Yeah, we can do that.
How was your first Saturday market this past Saturday?
Oh, you know what? Despite the cold weather, it went very well, very well. The parking lot was almost full the whole time.
Good.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
It was good.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. And, if you'd like, I can have Danielle Stevens come up.
Yes. Name and address.
I am Danielle Stevens, 19590 Southwest Eagle Drive in Dunnellon, in Rainbow Lake Estates. I am the website developer for Discover Dunnellon and also for the Chamber website. If you guys are looking for those dates, you can check the Chamber website. Actually, Judy has been keeping up with the events calendar very well. We just installed a new plugin where the events calendar looks very nice, accessible. You can even add it to your Google Calendar or your iPhone calendar right from the website. So please, if you are confused on those dates, DunnellonChamber.com. And so I'm here to give you an update about Discover Dunnellon. I'm very excited to have this website. I did it previously when it was up before, and it's a dream of mine to have. I love Dunnellon. It's a beautiful community. I'm working very closely with Julie Mancini for photos for the website, photos of the river, and a lot of the attractions. We are getting all of the businesses loaded in there, starting with the chamber members first. And other businesses will be able to sign up for free and put their business on there. And of course, they can have some help. I am local, so they can call me anytime. Do you guys have any questions about the website specifically?
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, are you talking now about the new visitors?
Yes,
Okay, and what's the title?
it's discoverdunnellon.com.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments, questions? This website, is this the website that we made a contribution to?
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. When would you think that the website would be up and going? What's your goal?
My goal is for, I'd say, the most another 6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yes. There's a lot of businesses to put in, and the pages won't be too terrible to create because it's a lot of design work that we've done previously, but it's the input of all the businesses, logo, name, address, phone number, operation hours, stuff like that. That's going to take the longest time to get in
So
there.
the website, what would be your main goal? What are you trying to accomplish with your website?
I am trying to accomplish, I would like people to see what they can do in Dunnellon first. Right away, I would like to have the map of Dunnellon show up with our featured categories being places to stay, places to play, things to do. And then we will have categories on another page where people can see automotive shops if they'd like to, but I really would like the homepage to be about the visitors and what they can do when they get there. And then below that, we'll have some teaser photos, where to stay, where to play, what to do, and then kind of like show those categories of stuff to do as soon as they click on them. And then we'll be able to have blogs on there if we want to, and we'll sell advertising spaces so we can get money back on the website. It's going to be just a really nice, moving, engaging software.
Thank you so much. Any
Yes.
other questions, comments?
Jan?
Oh, did I answer your question?
Oh,
Okay.
And I will just, it's funny, somebody in, another realtor that I know was asking, hey, who should we reach out to? And my broker mentioned you. I didn't put the two together.
Oh.
That you were us as well. So
Yes, yes.
Your reputation precedes you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Valerie. It means a lot.
Okay, thank you very
Any other
much.
questions? Okay, thank you.
luck. Thanks.
Have a great
And
night,
you're
you
gonna,
guys.
oh, just real quick, we're gonna do like a sample so that businesses can kind of give us, because that's what we asked last night, was kind of like, for what we know to give you, the businesses, that you're gonna put together a little quick sample
Yeah.
so that businesses can know what it is you need from us for
Okay.
them. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We can do that. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Very good. Okay, now we go to item number 3, board reports. Anyone have any board reports? Yes. Mr. Arbo.
Thank you, Brenda D'Arbo, 11661 Camp Drive, Chair of Dunnellon Planning Commission. For our meeting last month, we had as our guest speaker, Mr. Mike New, and he is the city manager for the city of Newberry, Florida. It was a wonderful presentation, very informative, and we were able for Mr. New to come as a guest of Mr. Pierpont, who serves on our planning commission. And he has offered to assist us if we need to reach out to him, but he said Newberry just went through the planning phases that we are getting ready to go through, such as developing the mission statement, Main Street, that type of thing. Newberry is about 58 square miles, but only 5 square miles of Newberry is developed. They have a $32.8 million budget. He said they had not really done any prior planning since 2007. And one of his friends at Tavares, Florida, Mr. Drury, who's the city administrator, had a quote that I thought was interesting. He said, "A vision without implementation is hallucination." So that's kind of where we are right now. We have to implement so we're not hallucinating with all of these plans that we have. He said it is going to cost the city, his estimate, between $10,000 and $12,000 to complete this process. And he said the city of Newberry leaned on the state universities. He said they went to Florida State University. They have an Institute of Government unit there. And he said they can help us facilitate so much of this to make the process much easier and very professional. And then he ended up with another quote by Dwight Eisenhower. He says, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So this is our marching orders. Thank you.
Any other board reports? I think at this time, is Mandy still there?
Yeah.
No. On the board that I'm currently on, and Vice Mayor Henshar is also affiliated with, his TPO. A couple comments from that meeting that we had last month was, as far as it relates to Dunnellon, was the crosswalk right here that's going to connect us across 41 toward the Blue Gator. It was something that the financing and the impetus of the FDOT is strongly focused on that, and they're expecting within the year or so for that project to be in action. when it may be completed, I'm not sure. But it is definitely on their priority list. Also, much to my surprise, I had heard rumors of such. I think Vice Mayor had brought it to our attention, but it certainly was verified, that the widening on 41 from Walmart up to 40, which had originally been scheduled to be put into place within at least a couple years, has now been totally removed in their 5-year plan. So they have no plans whatsoever to go on with that widening on 41 for 5 years. I have my opinions on why that might be. It might have something to do with they don't know where the toll road might be, and why do that if you don't know where the toll road is going to be, right? So that would be, but it's being explained that they ran out of funds. Also, interestingly, I attended an English commission meeting. City, they call themselves commissioners there last night, and FDOT was there making a presentation to them. It was quite a surprise. I didn't know they were there. And they were presenting to Inglis their plans in the near future to widen 19 from Red Level up to Chiefland. So the question of the commissioners are, that road from that point to Chiefland is hardly used. Why are you widening it? Here again, if you put 2 and 2 together, the Suncoast Highway and the possibility of the toll road would be dumping all that traffic on 19. So naturally, you can imagine what the response of the English commissioners were once they got word of that. They're actually having a kickoff on that, I believe on the 21st or 22nd in Inglis, where FDOT is going to meet there with their placards and their representatives to go over that. I want to go there because I want to keep on top of what's going on. This is directly connected to and related to the turnpike in some way, shape, or form. So get the word out. That might be something you want to attend, just to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. So are there any other board reports? Okay. It was really interesting to go to another city's meeting. There's the comments by the people were on different subjects, but the themes were pretty much the same. You know, why don't we know about this? Why aren't you communicating this sort of thing? It was really interesting when I was sitting there listening to this, and I say, other than, you know, why didn't anybody tell us about this radio tower that was going to be put in my backyard? You know, there was a big theme about government communicating with the people that it represents. It was quite interesting to listen to it. I enjoyed that. Okay, we're moving to number 4 right now. Presentation, Take Stock in Children of Marion County. Ashley Gray.
That is actually moved to the Monday's agenda.
Okay. So that is delayed till Monday. Thank you. We move to number 5, agreement, AGR 2021-15 road condition assessment EO grant. And Jan Smith, you're going to take it from here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We have been, the city has been awarded finally the grant to assess our city-owned and maintained streets. This grant will help serve as a blueprint to prioritize needed development and maintenance of our roads. And it is 100% grant funding for the city to contract with a consultant to perform that assessment. So staff is looking for action to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement so we can move forward. And it is in the amount of $45,600. And Troy is thrilled.
Okay. Any comments by council, Ms. Kenny?
No, not unless Troy would like to give us a line or two as to his feelings.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just to reiterate that the last couple of years, I've made presentations to the council about our road conditions and about developing a master road plan as far as deciding factors of which road gets paved next. And in that presentation, we had talked about this type of a grant. And if we were able to get it, it would certainly help our project. And we finally got the grant. This is exactly what we need to establish that project, that program,
Hey, when will it start?
immediately.
Yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, they're ready to rock and roll
Yes, ma'am.
once he signs?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments on this? Jan or Troy, so my understanding of this is just to give a total overview of where the needs are within the city and
Yes.
possibly triage it and things like that for us.
Yes, and the next agenda item, I can go into great detail as to what will be provided by the engineers.
So do we need a consensus, Mandy, for me to sign this?
We can put it on the consent agenda.
Can you sign it tonight, or no, we have to sign it on
Yeah, on the
Monday?
consent,
You have to approve it on Monday.
Oh, okay.
consent agenda?
Oh, yeah. That's the way.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, we move very smartly to item number 6. Troy, this is agreement 2022-05 roadway condition assessment, Kimberly Horn, IPO number 100. And Troy, we'll turn this over to you.
Yes. All right, council, as we had just discussed, the grant that we've been awarded, I've been coordinating with Kimberly Horn, our engineer on record, been helping with all of our road projects. They were the ones that helped us write this grant. They were the ones that suggested that these grants were available to us for this type of project. Now, basically, without reading the entire agreement and scope of work, I'll thin it out for us. They will come in with dashboard cameras and recording devices. They will evaluate every linear mile of paved roadway that the city owns and maintains currently. They will take that data and share it with a company that they have contract with to do the analysis. Out of that, it will all come back to us. The data will come back to us with recommendations of what grade it is. If it's a 1, it's in great shape. If it's a 5, it needs to be repaired immediately type thing. But it will also accumulate this data into a GIS mapping system, like our stormwater and all the other stuff. But it will also give recommendations based on those grade scales. So, for example, if a roadway comes back receiving condition rating of a 5, it will likely require a full reconstruction of that roadway. But if the road condition report says that the road is a grade 2 or gets a 2 score on it, more than likely it will require an asphalt overlay. So not only will we know what roads are in the worst condition based on this report to help us with our annual budgets to figure out where we can put our money, but it also helps us identify some of the roads that are beginning to deteriorate that we can put a whole lot less money in and extend the life of them considerably, if that makes sense. For example, Ohio Street, Cedar Street, the project we're about to do now, I want to say a little over $300,000, almost $400,000 going into those 2 roads because the reclamation process, the reclaim and the reconstruction is so much greater than it would be, say, if we redid Bostic Street. Okay, that would, say it only had 1 or 2 little potholes they can asphalt over type stuff. Okay, this project will take a couple of months to complete. However, I do understand we have a deadline to get deliverables back and report back to the state to be in compliance with the grants. Kimberly Horn is ready to begin as soon as possible. And that's why we are asking council's approval to accept the agreement and let us move forward.
Not dirt roads, right?
No, the dirt roads will not be assessed. Obviously, we know they need to be paved. So we focused what grant money we could get on 100% of our asphalted roads, paved roads. And don't forget our dirt roads of Dunnellon Heights, we're still pending a $6.5 million grant application for those.
Well, I mean, there's even like a road, I'm sorry, I'm going blank. If you go back behind the Baptist church, you go all the way back, there's that one dirt road, there's like 3 houses that it runs in
Right.
front of.
Originally, it was a garbage truck alleyway. Now it's becoming more of a public access roadway. There's also one over, I want to say on the east side of 40 on 2nd Ave or 3rd Ave. One of those is a short section of roadway. It's never been paved. So those will be projects that we can focus on and say, we need to do full construction on those roadways. But that, we would not have to waste time or grant funding to evaluate. We already know.
I just didn't know if
Worst
they'd have
condition.
recommendations or something.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, what action, if any, do we need from?
We need council's approval to sign the agreement.
Okay.
Kimberly.
Any additional comment? Consent agenda? Okay, unanimous. Put it on the consent agenda.
Thank you very much, council.
All right, you got it. All right. Now I believe we're at item number 7. This is just a general open discussion that we did a wonderful job putting together our Blue Run Park ordinance. I did give a speech presentation to the county within the last week or two. Went over, told them that we had it finished, that it's signed and will go into effect April 1st. I also reminded them that they were heavily immersed in the process, both invited to council meetings. Their legal staff was advised through our legal on various things. Seems like there's been so much immersion and so many hours put into this. It just seems like everybody's on board with this as far as the governments go. But now that we have passed the ordinance, now we need to discuss how do we put it into place. So as we all know, the ordinance will go into effect on April 1st. That date was purposely chosen because that's considered the beginning of the tuber season. So we wanted to get the word out that the ordinance was passed in a timely way, that those that could be impacted, whatever way, they would be aware of that. I did send out a letter to the county saying that I would be putting together a meeting between staff, myself, and asked if Jim Couillard would like to be part of coming as we talk about the implementation. Chief naturally would be part of it to put it into play. So really what this is just to put it out there that we do have an ordinance that's about ready to go into effect. And we have to figure out what's the best way to send out notices, what the police need to know, what the police need to do. What do you do on April 1st with violations, with the ticketing, warnings, whatever we want to do. So this is just a general open discussion. And from this discussion, I will organize a meeting with the county and we'll start trying to put some things together. So any comments by council on this?
Question. Before we get council members involved, be it you or anyone, should the staff members get together first and kind of then bring to us those ideas of how to enforce these codes? I mean, instead of having one of us try and do it with them. Because I mean, I don't want you to say, yeah, we want it done this way, and then it gets done, but the rest of the council doesn't like it being done that way. I'm just trying to think of not doing it backwards, kind of have staff do it first with the county and our staff, and then bring us in as contributors, because really you can't speak for the council.
Correct, and I don't intend to. Whatever would be put together, suggestions with the chief, Mandy, myself, and the county, and whoever, that would not go into effect until the council was presented with it, and the council could make comment and suggestions and whatever. So it's just a way of getting the ball rolling between now and April 1st.
I guess just my thing is that it really should be the staff getting it together. Because, I mean, you're more like me. I don't think you're going to sit there quietly and not give your opinion. And you're not going to sit on your hands. I mean, I'm just
Well,
saying.
I'm sure Chief won't be sitting on his hands.
Oh, no, he's not supposed to. And I'm just saying, this kind of seems more of like a staff issue that needs to get together and doesn't need to have one individual from city council on. That's just my thoughts. It just seems like it's a staff on staff of Marion County and a city of Dunnellon County or city of Dunnellon staff together to bring back recommendations on how to enforce it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I understand.
My comment on that is too many chefs spoil the soup. I'd like our head chef there to take charge and let others add to the recipe and then present the entree to us.
Ms. Kenny, any comments on that?
I like the way it was just expressed. Sounds reasonable to me. We've been going through this for quite a period of time, so I think that it would be pretty easy at this point because most of the issues have already been thoroughly discussed.
Ms. Williams?
Well, Chief, I think the police department would be the best to see how we're gonna enforce it. That's my opinion.
The point was made is to ask a council member or myself, the mayor, to not be involved with the formation of the implementation until staff and others have done it, and then they present it to council.
I don't have a problem with that. Sounds good.
You don't have a problem with the mayor being involved or the mayor waiting to get the report?
Waiting.
Waiting, okay. Well, I don't think there's no motion involved right here unless it's brought up Monday and I'm told to do otherwise, which I respect. By a majority vote, I do plan to go forward with how I said it.
I'm in favor of you going forward.
Yeah, but if someone wants to make a motion and say they would rather have it the other way, I will respect that. But right now, my intent is to go forward with my plan.
And it's nothing personal. I'm just saying, usually staff works with staff on these things.
Very good. All right. Do you want to put that on the agenda?
Figure it out.
Okay. Okay, so that's my intent. Andrew, do you have any at this time, because this is an open discussion, do you have any ideas what we can do to facilitate implementing this ordinance?
I'll be discussing some of that with Chief based on some feedback from him, and I know he has had some thoughts as far as prosecution goes, so I think I'll leave that to him to explain. Because he wanted to address you on that, I believe, right, Chief? Yes. And other than that, no, I'll be proposing some just common sense exceptions on the ordinance having to do with utility work on the site and that type of thing. First Amendment type of activities, but that's still going through the FCT process.
And in consideration to Vice Mayor's concerns, allowing staff the opportunity to formulate a plan before a meeting is called would be certainly the best way to go about it. So when staff has had an opportunity, you talking to chief or whatever, whenever we feel it's time to call a meeting, we can do it at that time. Okay? And nothing will be decided until it's brought back to council. Okay, we go to number 8. Here again, council decision on boat and launch fees, parking fees. As we know, council did not renew our contract under agreement with the state. So we are now in charge of the boat ramp. We are in charge of the parking lot, which frees us by not having the agreement. It puts us in a position to consider charging some sort of fees for boat ramp for the parking. And I think it's a tremendous revenue source just waiting to be captured. If you look at which we will, staff has put together, has contacted other cities, and right now it is very, very much in line with other cities charging fees for their ramps and their parking. One of the biggest complaints that we always hear about our ecotourism in Dunnellon is the amount of ecotourism that comes into Dunnellon, but yet Dunnellon doesn't get any of the money. There's no question there's some truth in that statement. We know people come in and they go straight to KP Hole, they do the tuba run and they leave. They come and they park their boat and trailer here in the parking lot, spend the day on the river, and they load the boat up and they leave. So we now are in charge of all that, and we are now, because we aren't in contract with the state, we are also responsible for the maintenance of it. So we need to make sure we're generating some income. Does anybody on staff have anything they could add? Andrew, I think you were tasked with looking into, what the monies can be spent for. Whatever you have to add.
Sure, I can tell you a little bit about it and kind of some of the case law that's out there. I'll make it brief. First, just to go over what a user fee is, they're a fee that's charged in exchange for a particular government service. And here's the key here. This is a three-part test, which benefits the party paying the fee in a manner that's not shared by other members of society. So somebody's getting a benefit for specifically the money that's being exchanged. It benefits them. And they're paid by choice. So those are the 3 characterizations that make up a user fee. When we look at case law, there's not a whole lot of case law out there that addresses user fees. There's really 2 cases in particular that focus on them. And what we know from case law is that user fees cannot be used as a general income generator. We've talked a little about that before. They have to be somehow spent within the system that's generated by the fees. And that's a question here, and I think that's what we were discussing in the past. What's that system? From case law, we know that there is some flexibility. There was a waste, and I won't go over too many of the details, but there was a solid waste case. It was in St. Lucie County, and ultimately what the court held is this all dealt with a waste tipping fee. And it could be used for all manner of purposes related to the solid waste facilities within the system. So we know that if user fees are charged in one place, that they can go to other parks and other areas. There's another case, City of Miami versus Hagley, which dealt with ambulance service fees. And in that particular case, it became clear that, well, you can deposit fees into the general fund. That's significant, seeing as that there doesn't need to be necessarily a restricted fund. But the big thing about user fees is you're not generating more income than you are receiving or giving as a benefit. So whatever it costs to maintain a particular service, your user fee doesn't, generate income above that. It was okay to put everything in the general fund in this case because the city was spending a lot more money on fire rescue services than they were receiving from the ambulance services. And the case said, hey, it's okay to use that money that you receive from ambulance services on fire rescue. So that's kind of a history on what we've seen with other cities, other communities, very briefly, what does that translate and how does that work in Dunnellon? Well, we know we have some flexibility there as far as fees goes. Just because you charge a boat ramp fee, that the money can go to other parks in the system if there's something that has to do with boating. Hagley is a nice case, and it cuts to the cities, on the city's side, that there's potentially some flexibility because we saw the money being used from ambulance services for fire services. That, I think, though, is very different what we see in a park service. I think it'd be difficult to justify or find a connection between a completely inland park that provides a completely different service than boating fees. So I think ultimately, as far as what my recommendation be and having looking at it is tailoring the fees to boat, essentially boating services, including law enforcement, everything about it. It's not just putting the boat in the water. There's downstream exits at certain parks. Blue Run, for instance, is there something that can benefit that there? If it's a kayak or canoe that's being launched, that's fine. But I think that there does have to be some sort of boating aspect to the fee, that it can't be just generally used for park services. There is some case law that indicate that might be the case, but it's very, very dangerous to go in that direction because park services are very unlike fire and ambulance fees, and I think there's a pretty strong distinction. But you still have a lot of flexibility, which you can use monies for in finding a tangential relation to boating.
Okay. If you look at the video screen, this is what staff has come up with.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I just want to interject.
Yeah.
Our auditor, the city's auditor, does agree with Andrew that the funds collected remain within a boating sphere, such as Blue Run Park or the
Okay.
park behind the
All right.
seal.
I would add too that that's for the boat ramp fees. Now with the parking systems, parking in the city, I think there's even more flexibility there. So they're not necessarily linked. I was just addressing the boat ramp fees.
Boat ramp. Well, I would think on this one, staff is well aware why council did what they did and what we were hoping. And at this point, knowing there's a possibility we can capture revenue through the parking or through the use of the ramp, it would be nice for council to put a little, for staff to put a little time into this and possibly come up with some suggestions what we can do. If you look at these, I know it's very difficult to read, but Crystal River charges fees. Marion County charges fees at the KP hole. The city of Carabel charges fees. City of Destin charges fees. Plenty of other places charge fees. Some charge for both parking and launching. The bottom line is we need to come up with ways to capture money from people that are coming in from out of town using our facilities. We have to. I've said this and I've reported to the chief. During the peak of the season, the parking spaces we have for boats right here, I believe we have 13 or 14 parking spots for boats and trailers. We have 8 in our auxiliary. And up and down the streets, every place where you can park a boat and a trailer on the side road, there's boats. Normally on a Saturday and Sunday, there's 50 boats and trailers between our parking and what's there, and they're all using this ramp. At $10 a pop, which seems to be pretty much in line with what everybody else is charging, that's minimally $500 a day, every day during the summer. I mean, it doesn't make any difference if it's a Monday, a Thursday, or a Saturday. And that's just 50 that are sitting there at one time. That doesn't include people that have gotten here at 7 in the morning that have left at noon and someone else has come in noon and taken that spot. So it's, I think cumulatively over the entire season, that could be a lot of money. So I would, considering now that we are responsible for that parking and the ramp and the boat dock, the maintenance of it, if nothing else, we need to make sure we're generating some revenue so we can be responsible for the maintenance of those things. So, council, you okay with directing staff to come back with some ideas on what we can do?
Absolutely. I love the way they put out the chart too, because it does show the diversity and it's very helpful, I think, in terms of coming to some kind of a consensus. And I think staff so far is doing a great job on that.
Any other comments?
Just, I've pulled up the different boat ramps in Marion, Citrus, and Levy County. Levy County, I couldn't figure theirs out, so I don't know if they were charging or not. One thing said it was, but then I could never find the price. So, or I think there was more over in Cedar Key and that kind of thing. So I was looking more for that river, not, ocean kind of thing. And basically like Mill Dam boat ramp, Lake Eaton boat ramp, Wayside boat ramp, say that one 3 times fast. They all, they had launch fees of $5. Some of them did, another one was like $15 per driver or $20 for a motorized vessel. And I guess, well, that's actually the KP hole, excuse me. And then Citrus County, I thought was kind of the best one for us. It's kind of like just copy and paste kind of thing. It was kind of neat because they also, you have a kiosk and you can, and you do it wherever you go. When I was in St. Simon's 2 weekends ago, you just plopped it on your cell phone and you paid. But they also had the QR bar. You could just do that. So that I thought was great. But they do it through Premium Parking Services, LLC, and they've been contracted by Citrus County Parks and Rec. And they use a QR code located at the ramps, or you can, go online or do whatever. But they kind of had the $10 daily fee for launching a watercraft, $25 annual pass fee for a resident of Citrus County launching a watercraft with a proof of residency, and $75 annual pass for non-residents. And then they also gave a definition, which of course Andrew would approve. Watercraft is defined as any and all kinds of flotation vessels designated to use in the water, whether or not motorized, including but not limited to. And then all of them said 1 license plate is permitted per pass holder. So I was, I mean, if I had to vote on it tonight, that would be something that I would be inclined to do, anywhere between that $5 and $10 per car. And then, and do an annual pass. I think annual passes are, kind of like what we do anyway. 25 is too inexpensive, but and I don't know if that's per month or whatever. Yes, my love.
We're gonna need to really do an analysis on what it may cost as far as maintenance and law enforcement, because as Andrew stated, we can't really collect more than we're going to spend.
Well, and what we were just seeing is if it has to do with boats, even like the Dinkins City Beach area, because we were going to do an area where they could launch in kayaks.
But we haven't implemented that as far as I know.
No, no.
Right. I know we haven't, but I mean, it's just something that I see how we can expand it to the 3 different water areas to help spend this money, since I just heard him say that. So I'd already put that one in the plan. Anyway, I'll give you this before I leave tonight.
I mean, it would be tremendous if we could work it in such a way that our parks that are affiliated with water, the money that we derive could be used to embellish those parks.
Making sure that this gets done.
Yeah, even this area back here is considered a park, correct?
Absolutely.
So we can even do some interesting things back here.
It would be used, whatever we would collect could be used to maintain the deck, the restrooms, to cover the water and sewer.
The police even doing
Absolutely, you know, with the police.
our boat that we use.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We
So
got that money spent. It's gone.
I've always said, you know, hand me the money, I'll find a way to spend it, right?
Let me go shopping.
I think that's how it. So Manny, give me some help here. You know where council, Andrew, you know where council's wanting to go. So how do we get the ship sailing? How do we get this process going?
Well, the fees would have to be established by resolution, but we would need to do some looking into the options as far as collection.
Yeah,
The cost of what a kiosk would be, if we were to put a kiosk down there compared to,
Honor system.
yeah, an honor system or an attendant, which. they
could
can
we,
have a very
could we hope
difficult-
like at the, we're in the February meetings now, could we hope that sometime during the March meetings, you have a report, just a report, suggestions on where we go?
Sure.
30 days? Okay, so let's make that as a goal. Council, you good with that?
Good.
All right. Do we need to put that on the agenda or is this finished for now? Okay. All right, if there's no additional comments on that, we'll go to number 9. This is something that's been brought to my attention, council discussion ordinance 2015-08, purchasing power. I'm not really well versed on how this works, but apparently we have a $15,000 cap before things have to go out to bid. After above 15,000, it has to go to bid. And it's staff's recommendation for us to consider raising that. It would still have to have competitive quotes, but it wouldn't have to go through the process of going through bids. For instance, our weather pavilions out at City Beach are really bogged down. We have the money, we have everything ready to go, but it has to go out to bid and the process. And it's just, this number is so low that we can't seemingly get anything done that needs to be done. So staff has suggested that raising that 15,000 would be helpful. Jan, do you have anything to add to that?
At 30, my recommendation is raise it to a minimum of 35,000. If council wanted to, you could even go a little higher and go 50,000. With costs today, 35,000 is a drop in the bucket, like you were saying, for the weather shelters. But it's all in what you're comfortable with. Staff would still need to come before council for approval of any contract. But it's just as far as what due diligence do we need to do for your comfort level to ensure we're getting the best price, best product, best quality.
So instead of doing the RDFs, what are those?
So instead of having to
Thank
do an
you.
RFP for something that was over $15,000, unless it was a statutory requirement to do so, you could just get 3 written quotes, bring them to council, make a recommendation, and ultimately it's council's decision. But it avoids the whole RFP process, having to get, advertise in the newspaper, which is an expense. You have to get the attorney involved when you're preparing the RFP and make sure it's legally sufficient. So there's just an increased cost to having to go through that process. And I can tell you, I just did it with those shade shelters. I mean, I ended up with an 18-page document that it took me hours to work on, and of course, send it to Andrew to review, get his A-OK, and then, get it out in the newspapers, which, it's an expense, not a lot, but you can avoid some of that and give staff some more flexibility to get quotes. And what we would have to do in addition to amending the purchasing policy, if you want to give us some idea of what you think those thresholds should be, if it makes it easier for you, I think we could have an open chart show what the thresholds are and what's required for each one, and send that out to you. It's going to also require us to do a referendum to amend the charter, because there is a $5,000 limit in the charter, and that can only be amended by the voters. So we would have to prepare an ordinance for you to approve to place that on the ballot in November. So if council, wants to give us some ideas as far as what thresholds you're comfortable with and what requirements, and Jan has actually reached out to some other cities and has some examples for you. We can start on a proposal for you to amend those.
And I will add in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cities that responded to my request for information. City of Dunnellon is the lowest. The next is Fort Walton Beach, which came in at, they go out for formal solicitation at greater than $19,999. But all the others between 25,000 and up to 65,000. Again, it's a very small sample that responded.
Understood.
So it just depends on what you're comfortable with. Either way, we still have to come before you.
And
to
you just
get
don't go
approval.
shopping.
It's just how we get those quotes for you, whether it be a bid or Troy gets on the phone and says, please submit something in writing.
Well, I do know, working closely with Troy, that he's constantly impeded by 15,000 in this day and age doesn't take much to get to that. And then knowing you have to go through this entire process. So it's like everything else, it's like wages and whatever, inflation and whatever moves you to a different. If we put this on the agenda for Monday, could you at least give a preliminary report?
Sure.
And then we can take it from there. Council, any further comments? We're gonna have plenty to talk about Monday when it's on the agenda.
Right, I think I can wait till Monday, but I am a little bit concerned about how heavy we increase this dollar amount. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be practical to do some increases, but I think that we are very concerned about our fiscal capabilities, and I'm not real keen on
Right.
a real high number for
Well,
sure.
certainly the number we decide will be.
Right,
And we also have to realize it's gonna have to go in front of the voters.
exactly,
So we
exactly.
have to realize if the number is perceived to be too high, we're increasing the
Because they're not
chance.
gonna
They're gonna say
they're
no.
not here sitting here listening to the
Right.
details of, you just can't go out and spend 35. That's what the majority will think, is that you can just go out and spend 35,000 without getting approval. We're gonna have to educate.
Right.
We still have that $5,000 Mandy has purview for anything $4,999.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we still have that $5,000 threshold that we have to come before council. It's just the process that we're going through to select a contractor or select a company.
Right.
That's
I get
the
you.
only thing that's
You know,
changed.
I don't really understand that. I guess the attorney does. Maybe this is because the governments do things very, very differently. But I have always been of the opinion in my own life, at least being involved with businesses, that you can go out and you can ask someone for a quote. And when you ask them for a quote, you go to a format, a type of contract which requires signatures. And with the companies that I've been involved with, the cost of doing business is to go out and get the quote and win the quote so that you can do the best you possibly can. But we don't charge people. We wanted people to use us, and that was part of our cost of doing business. We don't charge people for them,
We're not charging for quotes.
but we're paying, it sounds like, for all these other.
no.
How much, right now, we have to go out for a bid.
Right.
Project.
But you
is
call it
gonna-
a bid, see, and I call it a quote.
There's a difference.
Okay, tell
A
me the
bid
difference.
is a formal solicitation through advertising.
Right,
We want your business,
right,
okay? Our threshold to have to go out for a formal written solicitation is $15,000. So if we have a project that's $15,000 that we estimate is going to cost $15,000 or more, like shade shelters, we have to advertise for companies to send us a written proposal. What we're asking, what staff is asking, is to raise that threshold higher, let's say 35,000, where staff is responsible for contacting companies for their proposal on a project that we feel will be $35,000 or less. Right now, if it's more than $15,000, we got to advertise. We're looking to do away with that advertising when a project is $35,000 or less. Let staff do the legwork, let staff do the due diligence to contact the companies and get 3 offers. And let council, bring it back to council to make the decision which offer to select.
Andrew, you look like you want to say something.
please do.
I think I can make it a little bit simpler and what Jan's saying is absolutely right. But we've talked a little bit about referendums and what takes referendum and what doesn't. And there's a few different categories of stuff that the city buys. And that stuff being if it's a good or a public improvement. The limit's $5,000. All that has to go out to bid, and that has to go to the lowest responsible bidder. That's what would need to be changed via referendum. So hardware, public improvements. Contractual services, on the other hand, don't have that same charter threshold. And so you have more flexibility there. And so what Jan is speaking to there right now, you have a $5,000 to $15,000 range where you have to go through the bidding process and go through, certain processes, and you can expand that. And that does not take a charter change. But goods, public improvements does. And that's very, very low at $5,000.
So just so I can understand, so if we wanted to change out all the computers in the city, and we know it's going to be a $25,000, we're estimating it's $25,000. Is that goods that we would have to get the referendum changed on the public, on the vote?
Yeah, for that, you'd have to go out to bid, right? You'd have to, under the currently, if you wanted to do that without going out to bid, then yes, that would need to be changed.
Okay, so if we know
Via
it's going to be
referendum.
25,000 and we now give staff permission to go get 3 bids up to 35,000, then, but will that have to be changed on a referendum? Is that a good? Now, painting the building, if
That's
we think
service.
that's a service, so they can get,
You can change that without changing the charter.
okay, but a computer, we would have to get a referendum change.
If it's over that 5,000 and you don't want to go out for bids and be locked into the lowest responsible bidder, then yes.
Thank you.
And you may not even want to have, that can all be done by statute, of course, by ordinance, of course. So taking, I've seen a lot of charters where if there's a dollar amount and it becomes very quickly due to inflation out of date, and it's hard to change.
And Ms.
charters.
Kinney just proved my point because she sits up here and she hears the words and she got confused. So trying to go out and educate Joe Q public, because yes, you're right. If you go to get a bid on painting your house, you're going to get bid offers, quotes, whatever our words are going to be. As a general human, I would say those words. But what we're saying is that if we're going to have you go buy computers, you're going to have to go through a referendum if it's going to be more than $35,000.
It'll be interesting because it will go to the public and let them figure it out. There's going to be a lot of people, like you say, that would probably be slightly confused. I certainly am.
So it's a 2-part process.
It is.
One, we can change it without a referendum on certain aspects of it. And
Services.
Services.
Yes.
So, well, at least we can get half of it done easily. But I think the conversation, the discussion is very significant. Something like this, making the public understand and getting it passed, the number that we would come up with would be very significant. If it's perceived to be a high number, the chances of rejection
And one thing
would
to
increase.
make the public understand, it all has to be budgetary. So it's not like staff is gonna spend $35,000 without it being in the budget, or without it being absolutely necessary. So that distinction, I think the public needs to understand. Staff isn't just going out willy-nilly to spend.
Nor
to
the
try
city
and spend-
council.
No,
Nor the city council. to try
No,
and
no,
spend
that wasn't my thought at all. It's just because we do have a business. And if we have somebody that wants something, they'll call us and they say, give us a quote. Actually, it is connected to the government and we have to do that, but we don't charge them for it.
No, we don't charge for those.
But well,
If I may, when we're dealing with projects in my office, for example,
Yeah.
we're going out to repair a road.
right,
So say I've got one intersection down along, good example is Palmetto and Magnolia Way. That intersection has to be repaired. And if I get a quote or a couple of offers on what that intersection will cost, right now, I couldn't do any work in that intersection without going to a sealed bid process with an RFP.
and that's because of the way our
Because-
charter is written.
Right, because our dollar value is set at 15,000. I can't do anything in roads and streets for close to 15,000. If I do, it's a very, very small, very tiny project, right? So another example is the intersections in Blue Code. We were looking at those. And just to do temporary patching was getting up around $25,000. So I had to stop talking to the contractors and start considering going out to an RFP, a sealed bidding process, to even move forward. And that's what prompted us to just do rebuilds in those intersections, right? All we're asking for is to raise that $15,000 to $35,000. If I
I
have
thought it
an
was 5,000, no?
No, ma'am, it's
It says
15.
whereas, it says section 35 of the city's charter requires that all contracts for public improvements in the amount of 5,000.
That's in the
And that's-
charter. I'm sorry, our purchasing policy requires us to go to bid for anything $15,000 or higher.
Your purchasing power, I'm just looking at what I'm reading in terms of your ordinance here. Purchasing, where's that at?
What do you want me to bring up?
The purchasing policy.
Okay, that's on line 92, purchase of contractual services. It still says yes, okay, but less than 15,000, okay.
Okay,
Contractual.
If you look at C
Yes, I'm looking at it
Section
right
C.
now. Mhm.
of the, C2, contractual services involving public improvements with an estimated value of $15,000 or greater shall be awarded after the city advertises to receive sealed bids or proposals. So, for example, the shade shelter project at the city beach, we have $30,000 in the budget as an estimated cost. Rather than being able to go out and solicit quotes verbally or in writing from vendors in the area that perform that kind of work, we had to actually prepare an RFP, publish it in the newspaper, and it's a much lengthier process than getting 3 written quotes from 3 contractors and bringing them back to council and saying, this is what we've got as a result of our solicitation for quotes. Instead of having to go through that whole formal bid, sealed bid process.
Right.
So it just gives us a little more flexibility. And I can't emphasize enough, it comes back to you before anything is approved or accepted.
And we don't charge people to give us quotes
We don't.
or bids. It does, anybody that gives us a quote or bid, it's
All right, okay, all right. I think I'm with you a little bit closer now. I think I understand a little bit more. I do come from a different world.
Sure.
My world doesn't work quite like that. But I do think that it will be difficult to explain to the public. Maybe not. Maybe they're not as dense as I am.
5 bullet points and we'll get it done.
Okay.
It's,
Both of those 5 bullet
Ms.
points.
Kenny, it's just the $15,000 threshold now is so low that very few projects of significance can be done.
I understand that, yes.
And to have to go through a sealed bidding process for everything that's in that area, staff is finding they're handcuffed. I mean, I keep going up to Troy and keep asking them when we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm realizing a big portion of the hangup is because we have the budget, council has already approved it and whatever, and we're hung up with these procedures. Okay, so we're gonna have that on the agenda
I
for
mean,
Monday.
if you want to, talk about it more Monday, that's fine. Otherwise, we can bring you, Andrew, do you think that we would have time to put together a proposed ordinance by March's workshop?
March workshop? Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
I
So we can
got
bring you an ordinance
On
for your
Mondays.
review.
Okay, so from March,
You think you can do it by Monday?
We need a little bit more feedback on the numbers, so I think that
reason I'm
I'd say
pushing and
35.
squeezing on that is the possibility of a referendum vote in November. So every month is,
Well, yes, because we
Critical.
would, it would require two ordinances, one to amend the code and one to amend the charter, because your ballot referendum is a separate ordinance, right?
it could require 3 if you really wanted to move quickly, because you could start the process immediately of changing the contractual services. I mean, it's really the purchase of goods that you're locked into, because you're locked into the services too, in that if it's over $5,000, there has to be some kind of competitive, bid, and then you have to pick the lowest one. But as we've talked about, there's different ways to do that, and with the 5 and the 15, you just staff has to go out and get 2 quotes, and then pick the lowest one. So that threshold can be increased immediately. But then if the $5,000 goes up to provide staff more discretion, you could act immediately on those thresholds, create the referendum ordinance, which would go to referendum just up to $5,000 total, and then when that changes, amend the ordinance again. That makes sense.
There is much.
You can move as quickly as you'd like.
okay,
I mean, I think 35,000 is a bid.
I'm okay with it.
35?
Are you
Do
good
you
with
need anything more than that, Andrew, or?
No, to change the ordinance, the $5,000 threshold would remain, but between 5 and 35,000, then staff would go out and get
Oh, okay.
quotes. Anything over $35,000 would require a competitive bid. Now, to make the range something more between 5 and 35, say $10,000 and $35,000, that's what requires the referendum. And so to change that $5,000 number, the referendum is needed.
Let's just keep the
And anytime you've
5,000.
got goods, your computer question,
Yeah,
if it's $6,000 worth of computers, and staff has to go out and do a competitive bid.
just keep the 5,000 to 35,000 then, right?
The charter, those goods are locked in under the charter with 5,000. We're only talking about the services. Public improvements incorporate services, so that's where there's that
So
flexibility.
Oh, okay, okay, so now I got you, okay.
Andrew, can we accomplish what we're wanting to accomplish without going through referendum by just raising it to 35,000 in-house?
That would solve a lot of, I think, public works headaches. But if you're wanting to buy computers over $5,000 without having a headache, no, that doesn't solve that. But that really does help out staff and public works for the problems that they were describing.
Computers aren't as often as,
And right now,
Patchy stuff.
we've always been on state bid for the computers. We're still doing that, right?
oh, so, yes.
So we're on
And I'm
state bid
sorry, I
for
just
that.
used
But that's a
computer.
good example that, because we do have those options too, so that when we upgrade the systems, we don't have to go out to bid for that kind of stuff if it's a state bid. But I think that what the point Andrew's trying to make is he's saying the charter language is for goods only, where the code is for contractual services. What we're talking about is contractual services and public improvements.
Let's leave the goods alone and the services up.
And so if we want to raise the threshold on the goods, we got to amend the charter. I think you should. $5,000 is really low.
Okay. Give us some examples.
But even if the referendum vote was defeated, we could still raise
services.
Yeah, the services to 35. So,
We can do that
Okay.
now.
yeah, okay.
Do that now. And then we would really do, you're right, we would need to raise the threshold in the charter for goods, say up to $10,000.
Right.
Or $15,000 without having to do a competitive bid process would require some public education for sure.
Okay, so we're going to wait till March to deal with this again, or are we going to talk about this Monday?
I don't think we need to talk about it Monday. I think
Okay.
we know what we need to bring back to you in March.
Okay, any other comment on this?
Good?
It just be brought to us
He can
again.
do the 35,000.
We're gonna-
No, I'm more inclined to understand their position than I was initially.
Yeah,
Well,
But
he
it,
was
but it-
feeling
it's
very
still going to
ambitious
be difficult if it's part of the
tonight.
charter and it has to be advertised.
okay, yes.
Mr. Mayor, our great counsel says he can do the 35 on Monday, if everybody's good with that. And if he doesn't have it, we'll just, you know,
Because that would, we have, are you saying we could have first reading on Monday of the ordinance? Okay.
then we'll work on the raising the referendum money.
Okay, let's do it, and so everybody's relaxed. Nothing's going to happen. It's just part of the process of the discussion and for us to understand it even more thoroughly. So it's just part of the process. Okay, we're going to go to number 10. This is just basically, I contacted Andrew, Mandy. There's currently some legislation going on in Tallahassee. I'll turn it over to Andrew, that basically is stating that if a city passes an ordinance that impacts a business's profitability by 15%, they have the legal right to challenge a city or municipality with a lawsuit. That's terrifying to me. You could put up a stop sign and that could impact someone's business by 15%. So I don't know who's coming up with this one and where it's going, but Andrew, if you can kind of make comment to this.
Sure, I'll talk about two statutes, pardon me, two bills. The one that you're referring to, Mayor, is it's called the Local Business Protection Act. So far, it's passed in the Senate. It's expected to pass in the House, its companion bill, and it does appear from, at least conversationally, that it's going to pass, and the League of Cities believes it's going to pass. The bill started out different than it is now. When it started out in October, it would have shut cities down. League of Cities has, of course, fought against it, and there have been some changes to it. It's still a very dangerous bill, but there have been some big changes to it. The original bill would have become effective on July 1st. Now, this new bill will become effective when the governor signs it. So that July, it could become effective earlier than July. It is possible. How this bill works, if a local government enacts or amends an ordinance, and when I say amends an ordinance in a way that affects a business negatively. If it's an amendment that is not hurting the business, then they don't have a right of action. But if the city or county does that with an ordinance and it causes a 15% of the business's profit reduction, then yes, they have a right to recover that. There's a few different rules. They have to be engaged in the business for at least 3 years, and they have to establish the amount of business damage that they've actually, they have to provide proof. And it's for the lesser of 7 years or the number of years the business had been in. So there's a limitation now. There wasn't a limitation before. There are the good news is, after that being pretty heavy bad news, there are a number of types of ordinances that are accepted from this. So if it's required, if the ordinance or charter provision is required to comply with state or federal law, emergency ordinances are exempt, temporary emergency ordinances are exempt if they don't remain in effect for a certain period of time. If it is an ordinance or charter provision enacted to implement part of Chapter 163, Growth Policy, County Municipal Planning, Zoning, that sort of thing. That's exempt. Florida Building Code exempt, Florida Fire Prevention Code exempt, charter or ordinance provisions required to implement contracts that are required due to federal, state, local, private grants, anything that has to do with issuance or refinancing of debt, adoption of budget or budget amendments, provisions relating to procurement, like we just discussed. So any of this, that's exempt. But, and there's a few outs. There's some good news there. There are some procedures that in order to avail themselves of this cause of action that someone who was damaged would have to go through. So they have to, about 6 months out, 180 days before they file an action, they have to present a written offer to the city. And the city can then respond within 120 days after that receipt, either reject, make a counteroffer, so forth. And then they only have 1 year to file a lawsuit. But that in itself, of course, is not very comforting to tell you, okay, well, you have to negotiate for damages. But the really good news is the opportunity to cure. And that during that 120-day period, there is no liability if the city repeals the ordinance or charter provision that gave rise to the business's claim. I don't know how you repeal a charter provision within 120 days, but that's what the legislature said. If the ordinance is amended that gave rise to the claim and that 15% reduction is taken out, or if you publish notice, if the city publishes notice of its intent to repeal or amend the ordinance, and then within 30 days after it does do the repeal, or grants a waiver, there's an ability to grant a waiver outside of the code, it appears, per the statute. That's not home rule. I don't know what that is, but that's what the legislature says. And an opportunity to repeal the charter provision. So at least the legislature has given cities and counties some way out, which is in one way or more or less just to undo what they did.
Yes.
But it's an out that at least local government can avail itself of before it gets put in the hurt locker, so to speak.
The what locker?
The hurt locker.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's how we talk about it in the office when we were discussing this, because when I first saw this in October, we kind of laughed at it and said, this will never pass. And it has gotten better, has gotten a lot better, but.
I mean, the way I read this was, it was a knee-jerk reaction to the pandemic and people lost money and we put in ordinances to wear masks or to have, I mean, that's how I interpreted it. It was a knee-jerk reaction of people lost money because somebody made you wear a mask or actually made you close down for 3 months or 6 months because of the pandemic. That's the Valerie uneducated opinion.
And it very may well be, but the interesting part is it's a completely overreaction in that case. And the one thing that they've exempted is emergency actions.
Are you talking about Senate Bill 280? Are you talking about Senate Bill 620?
I'm talking about 620.
620, thank
Yes,
you.
yes, ma'am.
So Andrew, one question I have. Normally, the governor would sign a bill like this in the summer, normally, after the legislative session's over. Ordinances that are passed and adopted and put into play before that, are they exempt?
If they were enacted prior to, yes.
Hmm?
Enacted prior to, yes, those ordinances are exempt. So whenever this bill becomes effective upon
So
signature by the governor.
if he signed something July 1st and the city of Dunnellon passed something May 1st, an ordinance, that ordinance would be exempt because he hadn't
Signed it yet.
signed it yet, right?
And the way the bill is currently written, but the bill is changing. It has been engrossed by the Senate, so we'll see what the House does. But the way the current bill is currently written, that is the case, yes. Can't say that it won't change again. It's gone through several incarnations. Originally, it was just July 1st.
Living document.
I haven't heard any discussion. Of course, I haven't been to legislative hearings of making it retroactive, but that's the way it's written now. So difficult to forecast where they could go or what they would do.
Okay. Was there a second one you wanted to talk about?
Second one is also very interesting, and it's also not good news.
Keep them coming.
The second one allows, first, and it's not the real meat of the statute, but it adds another cause of action, a civil action. If a civil action is filed against the local government to challenge the adoption of a local ordinance on the grounds that the ordinance is arbitrary or unreasonable, the court may assess and award reasonable attorney's fees, costs, and damages to a prevailing plaintiff. So if a city is sued, then, and when it prevails, then an award of reasonable attorney's fees up to $50,000 can be awarded. That in and of itself is not good news, but that's not the day-to-day aspect of this ordinance that would really affect the city. As far as that goes, let's start here. What is required if this passes, and this one I think is even more likely to pass than the Local Business Protection Act. But there's the requirement of a business impact statement for ordinances. Again, there's a few exceptions. They track largely with the exceptions that we saw in the Local Business Act. And what that requires is before a municipality enacts a proposed ordinance, the governing body of the municipality, assumably your staff, as opposed to the actual governing body, shall prepare or cause to be prepared a business impact statement in accordance with the subsection. And what that requires is a summary of the proposed ordinance, including a statement of the purpose. That we usually see in whereas clauses, so that's no big deal. But then there also needs to be an estimate of the direct economic impact of the proposed ordinance on private for-profit business in the municipality, including an estimate of direct compliance costs businesses may reasonably incur, identification of any new charge or fee on businesses subject to the proposed ordinance or for which they would be responsible, an estimate of the city's regulatory costs, including any revenues that would be imposed on businesses that the city would receive, and any additional information that the governing body determines to be useful. Yes.
Can I make a question? Because I'm really muddy water. I mean, mixed with future look clear. So let me just do an analogy. Let's say that if you do a boat riding charter out of our boat slip here, right? And we're about to make a regulation that we're going to now charge money, and that we're going to now make Lieutenant Yachts back there make sure everybody's paying the money. And somehow this is going to affect the boat captain financially. Are we going to have to estimate how much money it's going to cost him to now park the boat or come in here, and what kind of, how much it's going to cost us to have yachts out there? And I'm saying your last name wrong. And those kind of, I mean, I'm trying to Valerie simplify it.
It's not
Yes.
simplified.
It was like the painting in the computer. Work with me here, woman.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to look at the Senate bills and read it because it sounds like it's not gonna be very good.
Well, but I'm just trying to give an application of how that would affect us as a city.
Right, it would have to be some sort of estimate of the direct economic impact on that business, on the businesses within the community. And I don't know how specific that is as of right now. I mean, this is just a statute, an unfunded mandate without a lot of detail, other than something will have to happen. But yes, these are estimates of direct compliance costs. So there's going to be some kind of financial analysis of how this is going to affect businesses. And like I said, some of those ordinances are exempt. The one that you mentioned would not be. I don't see per this. Now, what it does say is this subsection may not be construed to require a city to procure an accountant or other financial consultant to prepare the business impacts estimate. But I'm not sure who else might be able to
Good
do
luck.
that.
That was my other question.
So
Brenda?
that is one of the problems. And then from there, there is another sort of system for legal challenges to those type of ordinances, if it does impact businesses. That's how the ordinance concludes. And this is a long one. This is about a 20-page statute. I said ordinance, I'm sorry, I meant statute. But it's a long one.
Well, you can see that people coming in that have a problem, some of the small business people who really do get hurt by something like this.
Whew. Let's just hope the legislature doesn't pass either one of those. My goodness. It'd make you afraid to pass an ordinance.
And if you all should be subscribed to the Florida League of Cities,
Yes.
when they send out the legislative updates, and when they do, often they send you a list of all the people that you can contact, and with their email addresses, their physical addresses, so you can write your representatives and your legislators and oppose these kind of things. So I would highly encourage you to do that.
I will say this too, the Florida League of Cities, as I understand it, is supporting this bill. And they're supporting it because it started off a lot worse than it is now.
Is it the second one or the first one?
I believe
they're supporting
they're
the first
supporting both now because of the changes, because
First one, they're
Here's the
neutral, they're
fast.
neutral. And the
What's that?
first one, they're neutral. They've gone from opposed
I
to
think they're
neutral.
just supporting the changes to it, not the actual
Yeah.
bill itself.
yeah.
And this one, I think it's basically the same thing. I don't want to speak for League of Cities, but I know that both of these in their initial form before being significantly amended would have
Okay, any other,
They were opposing them.
terrible for local
originally.
government.
Yeah,
Terrible for local government.
yeah.
any other comments? Thank you, Andrew. Well, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up, I swear. I mean, you really can't. I mean, who comes up with this stuff? All right, we are now moving to number 11, council discussion, hours of operation, Councilwoman Cubbage. Ms. Cubbage, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, I guess how my consideration of this began was quite a while ago from people, even before I started considered running for office. There were people that I had met in the area that were visitors and were going to purchase property, and they asked about city hours, and I already knew what they were. My husband, Bob, was on the CRA advisory board for a while, so I knew it was going, pretty much what was going on. They said, "What? Your hours are what?" And then if you make a judgment of anything, the best way to do that is have two columns, positive aspects and negative. And when the pluses start piling up in the plus column for what's good about it, and the negatives are like, eh. So here's what I have done is I've called some other cities and I've researched their hours, talked to administrators and so on. Williston, their hours are 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. Inverness, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Crystal River, 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And here's the one that's really relevant to our operation of our city. All Marion County offices, with very few exceptions, their hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That includes growth management services, which encompasses code enforcement, planning, et cetera. Their Parks and Recreation in Marion County, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. Our Dunnellon Police Department official hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. So if we look what we're doing, there are people who believe that we are on the same, I should say, time frame as all other offices in our area, including Marion County offices. So what does that happen? Somebody comes into our city, purchases a property, needs to do business here with our city administration, particularly our planning department. And they're taking a 3-day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to come and stay at their place, and they're gonna do some building, and they need permits or whatever. And they come on Friday, and they come to our building, and the doors are locked. And they're like, what? Okay, so Visitors that come here are often end up here in the parking lot and in the lobby asking questions. Instead of them finding the chamber building, they find City Hall and they start asking questions about how do you get in the river, da, 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 and so on. The other thing is, when we go and post a job opening, if people are looking at two positions, let's just say assistant city administrator, which we had open, assistant city planner, which is now open, and so on. And they're looking at two cities, two small cities in Florida. And they say, I could live at either place. Those are really nice communities, want to be near the water, I can afford to buy housing there. And then they look at the work hours and they say, what? 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? What am I going to spend time with my family? I'm going to be leaving in the dark in the morning. I'm going to get home in the dark. So this idea of physical well-being is very important, I think. I've been a biology teacher. I'm teaching anatomy and physiology right now. Sleep is so important. The amount of hours you spend walking is so important to your health, okay? And eventually, wear and tear will take a toll on you. And believe me, as we grow older, we will find that out, okay, without a doubt. I just think it's so much more sensible for people's well-being to work those hours, 8 to 5 p.m. How that could be worked out as far as our meetings and so on, that's something for discussion. The other thing that is also in the negative column for having the hours of operation currently is Monday legal days leaves what, a 3-day work week here for city administration. Okay, the rest of the world is still going to work a 4-day week. Okay, so these are all considerations, and I think we should consider seriously to going on a 5-day work week, and whether it start at 8 a.m. and end at 5 or 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I really think that we should get in tune with the rest of our area and change our work hours here. And I ask that it be put on agenda for Monday for serious consideration.
Okay, any comments? Councilwoman Hubbard, by asking it to be on the agenda, it will be on the agenda. That's one of the rights of councilmen. Is there any comments? Ms. Kenny, do you have any comments?
Yes, I have a comment.
Huh?
I think that, I don't know how these other cities are doing, and I think it's fair to look in to see exactly how it works for the people working for the city. It would seem like if you had a 5-day work week and you were leaving at an appropriate time, that the city council meetings then, or the planning meetings, or those types of meetings would have to take place during the day. I will say that when we have these evening meetings, I sometimes wonder how difficult it is for our staff to come to these meetings and stay as long as they do. But in the end, I would hope that it would be a consensus among the employees as to what is in their interest and what they would like. Because I mean, it's not easy for you guys to be here. So that this issue is being brought up, I think it's a timely one. We do hear it when we're out there in the real world and talking to people, and they don't understand. They say, golly, gee whiz, you only have a 4-day week over there. I went over there and I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. So yeah, but you should come over there sometime at night, about 8 o'clock at night, and they're still there. You know, so there are negatives for the people who are working here, and it affects their lives too. So I would be interested in how they feel about it. That's my comment.
Ms. Williams?
I really don't have a problem with the 4-day work week, and I'd like to see some numbers. Who's complaining? You know, where are the stats? Nobody's ever said anything to me about a 4-day work week, you know? And what about the work? I mean, is the work getting done in the 4 days? I was just here the other day. If you got people out sick and they're working from home at night trying to get work done. You know, I've heard that several times when they're out sick. So I don't have a problem with it. I think it's an incentive myself. And I think it's something that will attract applicants for vacant positions. That's
Well,
just
if
my
they only
opinion
work,
on
if they
it.
only work for 4 days and they work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, it would definitely be an incentive. But these folks are working a lot of hours after more normal people work. But it should be up to them in part, in large part.
And the work's getting done. I mean,
Vice
wonder how
Mayor?
many people we've had complain about Fridays, not somebody not being here on Fridays. I'd like to see some numbers.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. And you know, and you brought up some valid points. Again, though, I'm with City Councilwoman Williams. Who is it? Give me the complaints. And have you, Mandy, have you had people complain to your office? Georgina, have you? I mean, I know you've only been here a short time, so you've had other complaints, I'm sure, but Troy? Okay, Jan? Chief, you're always on duty. And Georgina, let me ask you this question because you are our newest hire. And Julie, I'm going to hit you next because you're the next. Was that 4-day week a negative for you or was it a positive for you when you were looking at your opportunities?
That was one of the reasons why I took this job. Because for me, that was a benefit.
Right, because of the pay scales, not as.
Because of the hours, because it's convenient. Especially when you have, like myself, I have a family member under my care that I need to provide to. And having Friday off for me, it means a lot because that's the day that I take her to her doctor appointments and that's the day I take care of things. And I hate to take days off. So that for me was a great plus because I don't have to take a day off from work to do my personal stuff. So yes, that was a benefit.
Julie? Sorry. Not trying to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. Everything that Georgina said, it was a benefit to me and one of the reasons why I accepted the offer when that was presented. I enjoy having 3 full days off away from work. It is such a blessing to have that much time. I would want to win.
Troy, have you had any of your employees take issue with 4 days?
No, actually, it's been one of our recruiting tools, knowing that they can, based on the salaries and the pay scale that we have, it gives a couple of them an opportunity to work a part-time job, Friday or Saturday. But also, just like others here in the city, you all remember my wife went through a very challenging time for 2.5 years. And during that time, I bet I didn't take more than 4 days vacation or sick time to accommodate those needs because we were able to schedule everything on Fridays. But with that said, our department does provide services 7 days a week, 24 hours around the clock. We have designated employees set for the weekends, right? And as far as what I can do, I can get a lot of things done at home because we are here late at night. So my 4 days, I don't get home before dark any day of the week, not just council meeting nights. Okay. So at least Friday I can be working on my projects, Saturday, but I also still have every call from my office gets forwarded to my emails and linked to me by the end of the day. So.
Mandy, how is it, because she did ask for y'all's opinion, so I want to make sure that y'all have voice. How is it with your part of the staff. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think I still receive, and Mr. Mayor, I know you can back me up on this. We still receive emails or text messages on a Saturday, and I oppose to Sundays, by the way. But, and text messages. I mean, you've never not applied, right?
It's not been an issue. I haven't had any complaints from any of my staff, or no one's come to me directly and complained about having an issue with it. Personally, I like it too, because I enjoy getting away from this place for 3 days in a row. Because here's the deal. I can be here for 4 days or 5 days. The stress is not going to be any less if I'm here 5 days. So having that extra day to sort of decompress, and as you and the mayor also know, usually Fridays, I'm still checking email and responding to email, and certainly answering phone calls if my city phone rings. So, anybody on staff that has every department head, Troy, myself, Jan, Chief, Georgina, we all have a city cell phone. We're available 24 hours a day. And we have had to, come in on the weekends and handle things or deal with things as they come up. But I will tell you that the majority of the employees do see this as a benefit and would be very disappointed if they felt like that was being taken away from them.
And Georgina, just real quick, as regarding our permits for builders and such, I know I just pulled a permit. You can just do it all online, correct?
For the most part.
Right.
For the most part, but I feel that this is in their benefit as well, because they have that extra hour. They can come in the office and we're still there, and they can do, city business.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about, having to run here because we're closing early.
And usually as contractors go, for anybody building or doing anything like that, they want to be out in the field already working by 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30. And trust me, they're still on a roof usually, or doing something like, at 4:30 in the afternoon. They're not going to stop at 2 in the afternoon and come in here from a job site to pull another permit. Or so it's usually going to be at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30.
It's true.
Is when a builder's going to want to come, or a contractor's going to want to come in. And you've done that kind of stuff, so it's better to get it over and done with the first thing in the morning than do it at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So I personally don't have a issue with it, needless to say. Again, I've seen it as a positive. Just exactly like you've said, nobody has not had work completed in a timely manner. And emotionally, I think you did say about physical and well-being. It's a positive thought. And I know I didn't pick on your department, but just too young, I know. So, so I would definitely be opposed to going back to a 5. We're not using time away from their jobs. We're saving money by doing it the way we are right now. So unless this city is financially losing funds from us not having somebody sitting in this building or in Public Works, then I think don't fix it if it's not broken.
Can I ask a question? Who travels the most distance out of the city staff?
Loretta
To get
travels
more.
from Homosassa, and Georgina travels from Ocala.
Okay. So that would help y'all in the cost of gas?
Yes,
Oh, that's a
that
good
too.
point. Oh, yeah, because Michelle
And
just
coming in and
moved
traveling through
from
all
Gainesville.
this traffic.
That too.
Yes.
Not to mention that I'm going to school full time.
Oh, okay.
And that extra day helps a lot, because I get to do all the homework I can't do during the weekdays. So yes, for me, it's a benefit all the way.
So that cuts the cost of the expenses and the travel.
And I will add, finance has had to impact staff for database management. And by having only a 4-day work week, I can come in on a Friday a few times a year, take over the database and not have to impact anybody on staff, and still have access to our provider, who is only there Monday through Fridays. When in the past, when we were a 5-day work week, I'd come in on a Saturday to do the database management. I'd encounter an issue that I would have to call support, And I'd still have to keep staff out of the system.
Yeah.
And with permitting and code enforcement now accessing our database, it's an even greater impact. So it's been a benefit, not only from the employee side, but from the city side, in my opinion.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure in a emergency situation, any of y'all would be willing.
Oh, you know they
We're
do.
24/7.
I was sick and working from home.
Oh, take it off the agenda.
No, well, you keep it on the agenda.
Seriously.
Dawn.
Because it's about staff.
Let me speak to it, my thoughts on it.
Okay.
This was actually one of the first topics that I got involved with when I first moved to Dunnellon 4 years ago. And I decided to start attending council meetings as a resident. And this was a topic that was being discussed while I was sitting in those seats out there. And my first response we were on a 5-day work week at that time, when it was being discussed, it seemed really, to me, where I had an occupation in my own business where I was working 7 days a week without complaint. That's just what you do when you do what I did. So the idea that people were going to a 4-day work week, it just seemed like you're speaking a different language from the world I came from. And I remember as a resident coming up to the podium and speaking my concerns of it. And because I was engaged with it and I spoke to it a couple times, I remember a lot about it. Staff presented it to council at the time that it was necessary to keep morale up in the building, and it would also help with the retainment of the employees that are currently employed. It was also presented to council that working people would have better access to the building because by it staying open later, people that work till 5 o'clock could come. And the third reason that was given was by having the building open 4 days rather than 5, there would be a cost savings on electricity and whatever to run the building. And I think one time I asked you about that, Jan, you said we might save $50 a week. I always thought that was kind of a little frivolous, but in other words, by not having the building operating on Friday, we were saving on utility expenses. That was one of the things that was presented to council. Okay, those were the things, the main arguments. What I spoke to that I had issues with is, okay, we have a 4-day work week. You're still working 40 hours. But what happens now when you realize that most of the federal holidays are on Monday? And I stood at that podium and I wrote the dates out and I handed it to council, that there was something like 6 Mondays that were also now going to be off days. So you suddenly, with this, now staff had 6, 7 3-day work weeks. And depending on when Christmas shows up, one year there was actually a 2-day work week because of Christmas and Thanksgiving being on a Wednesday and Thursday. So I had some issues with that, and I still do have issues when we got a city that's operating 7 days a week and we have multiple 3-day work weeks. Also, staff is able to take personal days singularly at their same time on a 4-day work week and reduce their weeks to 3. So I still have an issue with it. I'm dealing with it. It's working. I'm not adamantly opposed to it, but I really do have an issue with the number of 3-day work weeks. Another thing that I had some issues with is on a 5-day work week, when you take an 8-day off, the city loses 8 hours. But on a 4-day work week, when you take a day off, the city loses 10 hours. So on a 4-day work week, when you take a day off, you work 30 hours a week. On a 5-day work week, when you take a day off, you work 32. So cumulatively throughout the year, if you added it up with all the employees, 2 hours at a time, cumulatively, if you put a dollar amount per hour worked, there's a lot of money a lot of work that isn't being, time-wise, that's not being fulfilled in the amount of money that it's costing the city.
Mayor, are you talking about like vacation or sick time?
No, I'm just talking about if you work, if you had a day off for the 4th of July and it was on a Monday.
You're not talking about when an employee
Correct,
uses an
correct.
accrual.
Correct.
Okay, because that's going to cost you the same.
Right.
Whether
So
they
the
take
4th of
8 hours or
July,
10 hours.
the 4th of July, which is a day off, on a 5-day work week is 8 hours.
I see what you're saying.
On a 4-day work, it's 10. So the city is actually eating 2 hours. 2 hours is no big deal unless you attach it to the entire staff and you multiply it through the entire year.
Right.
And if you put a $25 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever it is, it's a chunk of money. Another thing I think staff should try to do is, knowing that they have Fridays off, the best that they can do, whether it's dentist appointments, elective doctor appointments, whatever, those should be done the best you can on Friday. Shouldn't be done on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You know, that's part of the deal. But I have come a long way. I have issues with it, but I don't have a real problem with it. I do know as mayor, I'm getting calls from residents. I'm asked to do things Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There is really no days off for me. But I do know it's a recruitment tool. I do know there's people that are here working, that are part of the reason they're working here. Part of it is because of that. So I have issues with it. I've stated what my issues are. But as far as me taking a position that I would want to reverse it back to 5, I think the good right now outweighs the bad. So with that said, that's my spiel on it.
But
Okay.
did you still want to remove it from the?
Yeah, I
agenda?
think we'll go ahead and remove it because, again, what I expressed about the physical well-being of staff, that is their personal decision, not council people's decision.
So you've removed it from the agenda.
Yeah, remove it.
Okay. Is there any other further discussion on it?
Not for me. It's too complicated for me. I just think that I don't think anybody has anything against the staff. We know we have a great staff. We really appreciate what you do. The perception that we run into as elected officials, I can't tell you this, is we talk to the people who are on the street every day and they say, golly, gee whiz, this is, I can't believe it. I can't believe that we have 4 days over at City Hall and I'm working 7 days and I don't even have my day off, and so there is a sense in the community at large that this is really privileged. And I think you know that. I think you all realize that they probably do feel that way. And so to be available for the public and to be concerned about the public, you're going to be sympathetic. I mean, you would be silly not to be. I mean, I don't know why we have to be a society that works so hard. I mean, I understand in Europe and in other places why they have fantastic situations where it is not common to work a 5-day work week. But here in Dunnellon, where we have a lot of people who are struggling and a lot of people who work very, very hard and who have don't have a Friday where they can, meet the doctor or something, have to take a day off and have to lose their part of their money and incomes. So it gets complicated. So while I'm sympathetic with staff, I don't have anything against anybody here. I hope they don't have anything against me. But I do think that they should be sympathetic about the people out there that don't come to our meetings and who do pay taxes and really, and they have loads too. They have, especially young people these days with their children and getting people to take care of them so that they can go to work. It's complicated. How about that? So my conclusion is, we want people to be happy. We want and we want to be grateful. But at some point in time, we want to be also sympathetic. And too bad to me that there isn't some kind of a revolving kind of schedule so that people who do work can have the office actually being open for the public on a 5-day week, and yet the people can still have their extra days and it can be rotated in some kind of way. To me, that seems like something that the public would like and something that y'all would be able would still be able to have extra time during the day to do the things that you want to do and need to do.
There's always going to be someone in this world who's not happy.
No, it's not being happy. It's not a question of being happy or unhappy. It's just it's complicated. And we are here.
Life is complicated.
Yes, that's right. And we are here among our friends. And we are here among the people that we appreciate. And we certainly are not interested in seeing that anybody is devalued or that they're not getting what they expect, because we know you give a lot. But we want you to be aware too that there are people that don't come to our meetings, but a lot more people don't show up that are out there every day making a living. And we know that you are aware of that as well, and we have to be sympathetic to that group as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Odom, being the in charge of staff, we do know that if you did feel there was a reason to rotate someone on the Friday, you have the authority and the ability to put that in play if you want, if you thought it was a need. So apparently right now, there doesn't appear to be a need for anybody to be in the building on Fridays.
Not that I'm aware of.
But that is within your purview, if you wanted to bring that back to council and talk about that.
If I found it to be a problem, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now we go to council comments, number 12. Any comments by anybody?
Oh, heavens, no. I have
Oh,
my
yes.
comments.
You do?
Yes, actually, I do have a comment, and it goes back to Kathy Dunn's comment on the cost of the proposal we got that Georgina got for the signs that would start putting new signs up in the historic district. And the total of that bill was $226,200. And I happen to agree with Kathy Dunn, and when this invoice was posted to us, I said, oh my God. Because if you do the math, 185 sign units is what we're talking about for the sum of $226,000. It comes out to $1,221 each. Okay, that to me is unacceptable. And the other thing is, I don't see why we have to go ahead and contract for 185 sign units when we can do this piecemeal, like maybe 20 signs at a time. So I went ahead and wanting to drive through Crystal River a lot, and the way they have improved their historic district, one of their amenities definitely is their new signage. I should say it's not new, but I think probably about 5-6 years ago, they started replacing a lot of their signs. And I love the look of their signs, the shape, the lettering, and so on. Of course, I'm talking about metal signs on metal posts. So I called Crystal River and talked to their city administrator, actually assistant city administrator, and they told me that they have had a continuing business relationship with a Crystal River business called Custom Glass. That's custom with a K. Kathy and Glenn are the proprietors. I've talked to them briefly about their relationship with Crystal River, and they said, we haven't taken any big contracts with them, like 80, 100 signs, but we have worked with them in a continuing process to provide signage for Crystal River. They also have provided signs for the U.S. Coast Guard. The Manatee Watch signs you see along Kings Bay were done by them. And they're currently working with the Crystal River Chamber of Commerce to place even more signs that are being, that being a situation where old signs are being taken down and replaced within Crystal River. So I really, number one, I love the idea of working local because that's going to give us an opportunity to look at every situation. Where's the sign going? How's it going to fit? Our historic board people need to know what's going on and approve these signs as well as us. And I don't see how that's going to happen doing business with a business that is located in, excuse me, I'll put my glasses on. Hollywood, Florida, okay? So Custom Glass is willing to talk to us about the signage. And again, what they said is they are a small business for employees, but they would like to talk to us about signs and again, not doing them in a whole lot of 185 signs, but maybe taking a dozen apiece, different places and so on, and producing custom signs for us. So I'd like to put on the agenda for Monday that we contact Custom Glass or ask them to do a presentation for us. I think it would save the city a whole lot of money and make a really user-friendly relationships to get what we want.
So Jan, what I'm getting from you is you like the idea of the signs, but you think we can do a lot better on the pricing.
Oh, a whole lot better on the price. And work with a local business where they're going to be here with us in the city to discuss the designs of
So
the
you're
signs.
not trying to scuttle the concept as much as you
No, oh, we
think.
definitely want the signs, but I don't think we need to buy 185.
Well, possibly, if you're correct, if we can get quality signs at a much better price.
Yes.
Maybe getting all 185 would be doable. If we, like you said, I never broke it down. I didn't realize it was $1,000 a sign.
That much, yep.
Randy, you want to say
That
something?
includes installation, just keep that in mind too, and maintenance. The reason the firm in Hollywood was contacted is because we were piggybacking so that we didn't have to go out to bid for this. So the company in Crystal River, if that's where they're located,
Yes.
they would have, if we decided that we didn't want to just piggyback off of this other contract in Weston and we wanted to go out to bid for this project, this individual would have to respond to the RFP. We couldn't just go select them to do business with them the way it is today. And if we raise the threshold and it's over $35,000 for 25 signs, I mean, if they're running $1,000 a piece for, the sign, the installation and all that, you're looking at, probably having to go to bid, even to cut this project into what, Georgina, 4 parts. You're still going to be in excess of the threshold that you're going to have to go to bid. And unless Crystal River has a contract with this company through the competitive bid process that we could piggyback on, we would have to go to bid and have them bid on the project if we wanted to use them.
My
If I
question
may
is,
add-
why do we have to get 185 signs at one time?
If I may add to that, it's actually 60 signs. And not only that, but we were trying to research on the piggyback idea. And we've been trying to get information from the different cities, South Miami and Weston, to get information on how they did their piggyback so we could do the same. It seems to be that it's not, the quote that we received is not exactly apples to apples to the ones that they have, meaning that we are going to RFP. We're not going to be able to do piggyback, and that is something that I'm going to have to bring up to your attention when I have the time to get that sorted out. It's going to be an RFP. It's going to be open to bidding because we can't piggyback with them as I initially thought. Now, the reason why we wanted to do the entire 60 signs for the entire historic district is because I was hired to help beautify the areas. And as part of the planning, it was one of the wayfinding signs were part of that planning and were part of the Main Street program idea. So having the entire area done in one shot would have a lot more impact in the beautification of the city than it would have to do it in pieces. And another
response to
thing,
that is,
I'm sorry, can I finish, please?
Go ahead.
Another thing is that the funds that are allocated within the CRA budget, they are specifically for the wayfinding signs. So we are not, we're not using any other.
And I'd like to add that those funds cannot be used
They-
on any city
exactly,
building
I was gonna-
or any city service.
You
because
can't-
they are CRA
right.
funds.
Exactly. So you can't use them for code enforcement purposes or for
Yeah.
any other service. You can only use them for the beautification project, and this is part of it. So having it all done in one shot, the money's there. We just have to use it to make this beautification project something real, not just, like the quote that Ms. Brenda brought up. We can't just hallucinate with ideas. We have to bring them to full force. And
So Georgiana, right now, one of the advantages of going with the company in South Florida was we thought we could piggyback.
right,
So now you're finding we can't piggyback, that we have to put it out for bid.
we're
So
gonna
this is
have
kind of
to-
resolving itself.
Yes.
It's kind of resolving itself,
So
where
maybe if we'd been talked
But
to
we're gonna
at
have
your
to-
office,
we're
it
gonna
could
have
have been
to-
resolved.
If we're gonna go out to an RFP, we're gonna have to decide, are we doing 20 signs, 50 signs? Because I'm sure that it's gonna make a difference in the cost per sign, the volume. If somebody's making you 2 signs, it's gonna cost you more per sign than it is gonna make to make 10 signs.
Mhm.
So we just need to
my
make a decision.
position would be understanding this is get the best bid we can get and do the whole thing. Get it done. So you'd have to feel good about that because we have to go that way anyway now because you have discovered. So you're kind of getting, you're getting your slice of the cake and whatever. So this company you're talking about, if we had to go to open bid, they would have an opportunity to do that.
And you had already talked to Kurt Bonds here in town, and he was not able to do this kind of business.
Yes, I spoke to one of his staff and there was, okay, they didn't have the capability to do that type of signage. So that's why.
I remember you and I discussing that, so.
I still don't understand why we have to get 185 signs at one time.
60.
It's not 185.
It's not 185, it's 60.
It's 60 signs?
60
Then the
signs.
price goes up according to what, $2,000 a sign? Seriously?
Each sign is between $1,300 and $1,800.
That's nuts. I'm sorry, that's crazy.
Well, if you,
I would love for staff, maybe Mayor White, to visit Crystal River and talk to their finance officer, city administrator, and see how they have been working a relationship with this company that's been doing business with them for more than a couple of years, more than a few years.
Well, I think,
That's how it works
I
out.
think the way this is working out,
I mean, if I was the public, if I was one of these people that voted for us council people and they found out that we were spending $1,500 for a sign,
well,
I'd be like outrageous.
your point has been made. Your point has been made, and in effect, what you're hoping is about ready to happen. We're no longer directly going to this company, that to do this project, it's going out for a bid
Going out for
to
bids.
everybody.
But I'm still
And then
saying.
we can decide,
Right.
we can decide how much, we don't want to do it all.
Okay.
And the funds are already there. We're not
It doesn't
asking for
matter, the
any.
funds are already there. It's,
You can't spend
So,
it.
It would
Ms.
be-
Cubbage, you may find
Right.
that, believe me, Troy will tell you, I go out and ask. It's not unusual when you contact enough businesses, you can sometimes get a 30-40% difference.
yeah.
And so you might
of course,
find,
That's the point.
you
That's
might
the point.
find that, hey, for that kind of difference, maybe we can do the whole thing.
Do quality.
and I'm sorry, if I may add, I think it's important that we start having an open mind and start thinking about having the city look different as opposed
No,
to,
I'm all for
you know,
that. I'm all for that.
you know,
Costs money. Right.
I
But
think the pricing on the signs talks a lot about the quality of those signs. If you're gonna go with a mediocre sign, that's not gonna look, that's not gonna give the city
I'm
the
not an expert on signs, but I
importance.
think somebody needs to start investigating this project.
Let me just tell you one quick thing. A real estate sign with a metal frame cost me $120.
Oh, of course, yeah, sure.
So I can't imagine what a sign on a post is gonna cost. So just FYI, yeah. All right, next.
Okay, so it's just, this is on the agenda, correct?
No.
No?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess to go to RFP, yeah.
To go to
Well,
our,
I'd like to say something about this. too.
Okay, please.
In regard to community, sure. In regard to community development, and in regard to the situation that this little town is in and as much need as it has, we've got somebody who is really looking into design elements so that we can have a branding and that we can have something visual. And the only comment I would have is, no, I didn't realize how expensive it was when it was first presented. And I do think that we need public input to know what kind of branding people feel is the city of Dunnellon. So the design is of the utmost importance. And I have every bit of confidence that this gal is going to be able to do it. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I definitely think she's going to be able to do it.
thank you.
Okay, Ms. Odom, where are we with this now?
We will have to prepare an RFP and go to bid.
Which is what we were going to have to do regardless.
Yeah, I just wasn't aware that
Yeah.
Georgina had learned that we couldn't do the
All
piggyback.
right. So I think there's going to be a happy landing with this. I think we're going to be very pleased with the results. I think you're going to get exactly what you want. And maybe we'll get it at quite a bit less. At least we'll try. Okay, anything else, Ms. Cubbage, on council comments?
No, sir?
I don't have any. I've already said everything I wanted to say. Okay, department head comments. We're at number 13. Troy, we always put you last. Let's put you right at the head of the list here.
I have quite a list here, but I am going to make it very, very quick. The update on the Cedar and Ohio Street project, construction is scheduled to begin April 11th.
Excellent.
day after the weekend of Boomtown. Okay. The new truck that we ordered has been received and is out in the parking lot if anybody wants to look at it this evening or swing by the office anytime. So we did get our new truck. Over on Palmetto Way in Magnolia, last month we had an incident, or late December, we had an incident where a garbage truck had caused some damage to the intersection. I've been working with their insurance adjuster and our engineers to try and figure out a cost and work out something with the waste management. So I will have more to report to Mandy and get it out to council when we get the numbers in. Okay. Not sure if the council's been made aware that, I know the mayor has, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, but I've joined or been asked to participate on 3 advisory committees in relationship to the Marion County, Ocala, Dunnellon TPO. The first committee is the TAC, the Transportation Advisory Committee. Then there's a safety committee, and then there's a long-term project committee. So 2, maybe 3 days, a couple hours out of a day during the month, I will be in Ocala participating with these advisory committees. We are pulling permits for our upcoming road events or street events out here, the Boomtown and Art Gallery. I should have an answer on that by next week. Okay. And then this Friday, our volunteer beautification volunteer group will be working out at Blue Run Park. We've been requested by the RRC to come up with some assistance to help repaint all the park benches out there. Bill River has organized all of this, got us all the details that we need. We had a meeting, decided Friday at 9:30, we'll all be meeting at the San Jose overflow parking and taking care of those park benches. Hopefully done by lunchtime because Bill Vivert's wife and Paul Marafino's wife, Sandra, will be providing us lunch. So
9 a.m. it starts, 9?
between 9 and 9:30, we probably won't get.
Bring your own brush?
No, we have brushes, we have paint buckets, we have the paint. Kathy Dunn and 1.5 of my crew today went out and pre-washed all the benches, got them prepped so that Friday should be a fun, easy
Do you
day.
need drop cloths?
No.
Troy, let me just, while you're on that subject, tell Julie so I don't forget, if there's gonna be more than one of you out there helping, we have to post a sunshine notice on the website that there may be more than one council person at the park.
I'm not helping.
Okay.
You're not?
No.
And also I will be there as a mediator to make sure that no 2 council members are working on the same park bench.
Miss,
Put that.
We'll paint it sunshine yellow.
why would that have to be on the sunshine if one's at one end of the park and one's on
Has
the
to
other?
be.
If we know that there's a possibility that 2 or more of you may be at the same function at the same time together, we post a sunshine notice to cover you.
Ms. Covich or Vice Mayor, do either one of you want to be there?
I'll be at work.
You'll be at work.
Right. Let me see, if I get the $1 million buyer, I'm dumping you.
I tell you what, we'll do it just in case.
Just put the,
We'll just
yeah,
do it
I was
as he
gonna.
said. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that's the way to do it. All right.
And that's it for now. I'm sure I'll have more for Monday, but for now, that's it. Other than I will have, hopefully by next week, have the updates on the next paving project of Blue Cove and working on the intersections of Palmetto Way and the Minnetrista area. Those are 2.
Did you say
projects.
waste management's responsible for paying for the damage they did by smashing that culvert?
Somewhat, yes and no. I mean, there's a lot of damage there, to be honest, that has occurred over the years. But as a result of this final incident, this is a conversation I've had with waste management supervisors over the last 3 years. And until the truck got stuck a few weeks back, maybe a little over a month ago, couldn't really prove who was running that corner over or all them corners. But they did contact their insurance adjusters, and they have reached out to me to get numbers as to what will cost. Now, I will try to provide you a more detailed report. I want to sit with Mandy and also talk with Andrew Hand before any more. But we have already begun a exploratory review of those 5 intersections to have them fully reconstructed tentatively using the ARPA funds that we're receiving. So in my opinion, to have Waste Management go in there, restore it to its current condition would be a waste at this current time. But if we can get a percentage that would go back into that project to offset the cost of that particular intersection to make it a better intersection in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I will keep council informed.
Ms. Smith?
I just have three things. Starting tomorrow through Friday, February 18th, our property insurer is coming to do an asset inventory of our fixed buildings and parks to make sure that we're insured for replacement value. So Troy will be available, or his designee, and the same in the police department. And I'm going to meet with their representative tomorrow before they get started.
And that's a free service that's provided by our insurance company.
The next thing I've started to prepare the budget calendar for this year. I've given Mandy a draft. So if any of you are making vacation plans and you want to see how it impacts the calendar, please reach out because, and pretty much it's the same as last year. Of course, a day later or earlier, depending on when that day of the week falls on this year's calendar. But we're looking to have multiple workshops, and actually we're hoping to get started a little earlier this year with the department heads by giving them the information in March so that they have a little more time to prepare their budgets, and that gives me more time to review everything and I also wanted to just remind you there's a CRA meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday. There's a CRA board meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday before your regular council meeting. That's all.
Will you have a budget there for us?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be a financial update for CRA as well as at the council meeting for the rest of the city for the first quarter. And our auditors are still working on our audit for last fiscal year. So I don't give an update because things still are changing and they add stuff to it and take stuff away. So last year's results are still pending, but you will get first quarter.
Manny, how about giving us a reminder about that 5 o'clock start?
On Monday?
Yeah, just during the day, just send it out, say, by the way. Okay, what else, Ms. Smith?
That's it.
All right. Georgina?
Yes, I just wanted to share with you, I know that you all know, but just wanted to let you know, planning, zoning, and permitting is down to 1 employee. So I wanted you all to know because I want people to be patient with our department. We are trying to bring all the permitting and planning and zoning to the levels where they're supposed to be, but it's going to take a little time to get there. And we're undergoing training. Miss wonderful rock star Teresa Malberg is training us, so I think that's going to be super great. And we're working on that end. And I also wanted to let you know that Main Street has been kind of put down on kind of a hold for now. I am working on a letter that I have to submit to Main Street for the reorganization process, but that's in the works. I have to submit it for review and approval from staff, from Mandy and from our attorney before we submit with all the requirements that they have asked from us. And I'm working on that program as we go. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be as fast as I would have wanted it to be because of the situation that I have with staff right now. But the good news is that we have a temp. We have someone that was hired as a temp employee. Her name is Twyla, and she's been helping us this week. So it's been a wonderful experience so far.
She's coming
And
into the office physically.
she's coming into the office physically. And then Teresa is helping us virtually. So I think we're gonna make good progress, but in due time. So I just wanted to let you know.
Mandy, how are we doing on finding someone for that open spot?
Not good. So far, don't
Maybe we
have
got to
any
cut it back to 3-day work week. You
You
guys
go.
told me a 4-day
That
work
would do
week
it.
will never have a problem finding someone who wants to work here.
I never said that.
That has nothing to do.
So it is
It
advertised.
took me 9 months to find Georgina, okay?
Oh, Georgina, hang in there. I'm a little nervous you coming here and being put into a high-pressure situation like this, and,
No problem, I can handle it.
okay.
I'd offer to help her file. All I can do back there, maybe answer a phone.
Yeah, wow. Okay, continue.
I have to report 20 total permits for January. We are auditing files as we go. So if anything else comes up, then we will advise in the next meeting. And we have 2 new businesses. Cowboy Barber Shop, located at 11371 North William Street, and Blooming Fire Salon Spa, located at 19140 East Pennsylvania Avenue. Barber and Beers, I believe their permit was in February, so I'm not listing them as new business for the month of January, just so you know.
So we have 3 new businesses open?
We have 2 for the month of January.
Okay, excellent.
Cowboy
And-
Barbershop.
I'm sorry? Cowboy Barber Shop, yes.
On William Street.
Don't look at me, girl.
I just gotta check that.
What else do you have for us?
And that is pretty much all for community development. Checking my notes.
Mandy, do you have a report for us?
The only thing I'll add is that you'll see it at the bottom of your agenda, that the ordinance that was property rights element, comprehensive plan amendment, we got the correspondence back from DEO that they approved everything. And it was acceptable to them, so we can move forward with the second public hearing and final readings of that ordinance on Monday.
Perfect. Anybody else on staff before we go to Andrew? Chief?
I would like to say 2 things. Number one, I had a robbery at the Sunoco station.
Oop. You have to go to
Get
the microphone.
podium, everybody.
Can't hear me.
Yeah.
There was a robbery at the Sunoco station by gunpoint last, little over a week ago. Took a substantial amount of money. One of my officers was on the scene in, less than 2 minutes. Put out the information that the guy gave us, description of the car, who the suspect was, put it out to the sheriff's office, had a high-speed chase on 484, wrecked the car, and got the money, got the 2 guys, and got the gun.
All right.
So,
Congratulations.
because we was there so quick and gave the information out, these 2 robbers. So what's that mean to Dunnellon? That was in the county. I think what it means to Dunnellon is that we're very quick on the draw to get there, get to the scenes as fast as we can, and hopefully other people, because of the advertisement in the paper, it was in the Star Banner, that maybe they will say Dunnellon's not the area to go to. The second incident, one of the officers sat on one of our drug houses, and he was there for quite a bit of time. The person who left the drug house committed a traffic violation, and the officer stopped him and was able to get a substantial amount of cocaine and a substantial amount of money. Hopefully, we're going to try and get the money so we can put it back. And also the passenger in the car had warrants on him. So the guys did a good job, and I'm bragging on them.
I think that covers all staff, right? Andrew, I think we're at you.
I've spoken a lot, given you good news and bad news. For now, I have nothing left to say.
Appreciate your comprehensive,
In the resolution that we're, were we gonna let them know about that, or we wait until we hear back?
We can wait. It's what I alluded to earlier, just some of the common sense changes to the Blue Run ordinance.
Okay.
Right, Mandy, what you're referring to, and then
Yeah.
the resolution that council had voted to send to FCT. Still waiting to hear back from FCT on a few things.
So we're
A few
not ready
things we want
to
discuss.
do anything with that yet, until we hear back?
We want to hear from them. We may
Okay.
do some updates on Monday. We'll see what turns up, I think.
Okay.
okay. Appreciate your in-depth analysis of the legislation that's in play. I'm very concerned about that.
I'll keep you apprised if anything else changes in the
Yeah, wow.
meantime, but I'm sure the League of Cities will be putting things out if it does change in the House.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, for those of you that have sat in here and hung in there and you want to speak, public comment. Yes. Hello, Dave. Name and address.
I'm Dave Porter at 11835 East Blue Cove Drive in Dunnellon. So I know it's late, but if you can just focus for just a minute. This has really, this is a discussion on the enforcement of Blue Run Park. That's the subject. So this is not really tailored to discussions tonight, but perfect communication is when I have a mental image and I provide verbally to you enough detailed information that you get the same mental image. Okay, so that's what it takes to have perfect communication. When it's written communication, then it's kind of, my mental image of it can be swayed by a lot of things, okay? So with Blue Run Park, in the ordinance, we have a description about commercial activities. And it says, notwithstanding the definition of commercial use, the KP Hole shuttle service provided by Marion County for its contractor on behalf of Marion County is a governmental transportation service and is specifically authorized to operate within Blue Run Park in accordance to any existing and our future interlock agreements between the city of Dunnellon, Marion County, consistent with the management plan. So, I have a mental image of what that means. And that would be that the cars that park at Blue Run Park, KP Hole, and the people that enter at KP Hole is the people that's going to end up at Blue Run Park and get a shuttle service. It's kind of what I think, right? And KP Hole's always been of contention. A long time, people parked all the way down the road and walked to KP Park. And then they had a satellite park. So my mental image is really expanded to the people that go in KP Hole Park and park there, or their satellite place. But last year, there was just tons of people that parked at Winn-Dixie and walked along the road. That's really dangerous. But it could be that what this means is that anybody that parks at Winn-Dixie could be picked up and taken to KP Hole Park and float down and stuff like that. So it really is not a perfect picture that could be interpreted differently, that mental image, by different people. So the enforcement of how many people end up coming out of Blue Run Park could vary, depending on what everybody thinks that means. And a lot of it's depending on the county and how the county responds. So I just ask in your conversation in the future with the county that we try to get the same mental image. And hopefully that is the people that park at KP Hole Park or their satellite, and not expand to Publix, Winn-Dixie, and everywhere else. Okay? The second thing for enforcement is the pedestrian bridge that we're proposing to go across the river. Hopefully in the conversations, we're going to put a pedestrian cage over it so that it doesn't become a dive platform, because that makes it more difficult for the chief to enforce. Thank you for your time.
Good stuff, Dave. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Julie?
Julianne Mendonça, 11894 East Blue Cove Drive. I'll also start with Blue Run Park. I can appreciate Dave's comments and the way that he thinks about things in vivid detail. Sometimes I think I'm detail oriented, and then I have a conversation with him. But Blue Run Park, I think that enforcement of the new ordinance is really going to be important on many levels. It's going to involve, of course, law enforcement. It's going to involve the citizens. It's going to involve a little bit of everyone. So when there's talk about who's going to develop these rules and who's going to, be building this plan, I thought it was a great idea that the mayor would attend that meeting, because I think that we're in a situation now where the city council is working with and directing staff. And so to say that someone from city council should be sort of a second, should be informed in a secondary way about the discussions of the enforcement seems backwards. So I do indeed hope that the mayor is able to be present in those discussions, because I think that it would be helpful. I wanted to thank Louise for her persistence tonight with understanding the purchasing thresholds and the language. I think that it's easy to just say, oh, it's difficult to understand, okay, and keep going, but that's in some part ways that the city has gotten in trouble in the past. So thanks for your persistence. I wanted to thank Jan Cubbage for bringing up the 5-day work week. Indeed, a complicated and heated sort of subject. I can appreciate that we did hear the council's perspective, and that Councilwoman Hanchar surveyed the staff, and that we got to hear their feedback as well. And I think overwhelmingly I heard, oh, the public doesn't have any concerns with this. But I also think that we don't really have a perspective on that. And it's easy to say, oh, there's no concern of the public. Nobody ever called me. Nobody has any concerns. But the public do have concerns. And, going on the 14th hour here, the staff have been here 14 hours now. And we're working on making important ideas and brainstorming on hour 14 in a day. And that's, to me, that's complicated. I hope that in some ways, I hope that the staff can take these 2 hours or 3 hours back somewhere else in the week. And it's a great idea to try to do your appointments on a Friday, but they're allotted paid time off to be used throughout those days. And then if it's all accrued and then they're no longer employed with the city, then that can sometimes, the benefit of that is a big payout. So I think it's an important conversation. I'm glad that you had it. And hopefully we'll continue to take a look at it if and as it seems appropriate. Just really generally, I'd like to hear more incoming meetings about the barriers or the holdups with the Main Street project, and how the signage and the branding of the signs fits into the Main Street project, if those two things fit together at all. I would just be happy to be a little bit more educated on that. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
I'm still Dave Koger. I live at 11983 Palmetto Way. And I'd like to speak to the situation with competitive bids and pricing. And having been a road and bridge engineer, as I've told you guys before, when I was out in Oregon, I managed the center section of their bridge program, which was a total of 205 reconstructions, 43 new bridges. $280 some odd million worth of work in a 4-year time period. In my section of work, we all run into situations where things aren't as they seem to be, and we would have to either go out for bid or RFP. The current Oregon state laws, when we were out there, required anything like it is here, anything $15,000 or more had to go out for an RFP. Since this was federal funding, I convinced the state and told them I wanted to take that limit and go to $50,000, and anything less than $50,000, I could have my engineers go to the contractor, get 3 bids, negotiate it, and come to the end of it. Bottom line, the long and short of it, the section to the south of me and the section to the north of me, which is the other 2/3 of the state, stayed with the $15,000. At the end of the four-year period, I saved the state and the federal government more than $150,000 by going to competitive 3 bids and letting the contractor negotiate those rather than have to go to RFP. So it's a good idea to raise the limit. What I did out there, I raised the limit to $50,000. So I understand that you guys are talking around 35, but I just know what the cost of like doing an intersection, Troy, is going to be. If you had it at $45,000, you would wind up saving Troy a lot of headaches and a lot of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me see, who's left in the room that hasn't spoke? Ms. Hilton?
I'm purely here to see how the council is working tonight.
Oh.
I've been ill on and off over a long period of time, so I haven't been out much, so I think it's very important for me to be able to make these meetings more often than I have been before.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anyone else? We have anybody on Zoom? Anyone else that would like to speak?
I do not have any hands raised.
I want to thank council for those. We actually started at 3:30 today. We had two of these. We've hung in here the entire time, and we've gone through the entire agenda, and I think we accomplished a lot tonight. Do we have a motion?
See ya.
Sorry?
Nothing, Andrew just looks exhausted.
Yeah. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.